I did, but I forget what I clicked. Hold on. Let me just open it up again.
Hey now, it's your boy PSA Sitch here with everyone's favorites. I didn't have a favorite for you today. Elf-eared enthusiast, Adam Friended. We all
The
know how
the
much
lo-
Adam likes
the
the elf
lore is
ears.
Adam doesn't like pointed ears. So
Yes.
yeah.
And today we're joined by a special guest, Dev, the short, fat otaku.
What's up, Dev?
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Yes. What are we holding on for? Oh, he just left. Dev just left.
No,
He's
no.
like, okay.
I have like 5 instances of the stream open. I can't find them. I just hear everything.
The echo,
Oh.
the echo, Duke, the echo.
Well, we're gonna be talking about Rings of Power. There's 2 episodes out. I guess the third one comes out maybe Friday or
Yeah,
Thursday.
Friday. I think
I've
this
seen
week,
conflicting
whatever.
reports. Yeah.
Sometime this week.
Okay,
Yes.
I'm back.
Welcome
What's going?
back.
Hi guys. How's it going? What's going on?
Hello. So it's
And
very
I
important, chat, that
yeah.
you all vote. We have a poll up says, how much did Dev love the Rings of Power? We had
Yes.
Dev quit his job to watch it on repeat. He's currently winning at 34%.
Ooh.
Dev bought stock in Amazon Prime. Dev
hmm
moved to LA to work on the show, and Dev started his own Ring of Power fan blog.
Yeah.
I
So
wish I could
Dev,
quit my job over it, but I got that video that I did on it got demonetized. R.I.P.
oh, that's right.
What
So,
happened?
okay, so first let's talk about the beef.
Yeah. Well, let's
Is
get
there
the
a beef?
beef out of the way.
There's so much beef.
Oh, I'm
What the
sorry
fuck's
about
your
the
problem,
beef.
Dev?
Yeah.
I'm already
Dev.
apologizing. I don't even know what it is. I'm already apologizing. It's the
Okay,
Canadian
so
way.
I heard. So okay, I the other day I randomly click on Neurotic and Mahler talking about Rings of Power,
Yeah.
and Mahler says I heard that PSA Sitch says that Rings of Power is good actually, and I'm like, what the fuck? When did I say this? And so I'm like, Mahler, what the fuck? Who's lying to you? And he fingered you, Dev.
He did?
Fingered you. Actually, no, he didn't finger you. Someone else,
Okay.
some people fingered you.
Must
Some
you say it
impressions
that way?
fingered you.
Must you say fingered you like that? I mean,
He
it's
stuck his finger. So what's going
Right
on? Why
into
are
the
you
ring.
telling people, Dev? Why are you telling Mahler? Why are you telling other people that I said Rings of Power was good?
Well, actually, I was watching that stream.
Yeah.
I was in the chat and I
Yes.
was chatting back and forth with him a little bit. And
Mhm.
Mahler said that, and I was like, "Are you serious?" And
Oh, so you're saying it wasn't you?
it was not. I got it from Mahler, but then I repeated it on my stream. That's true.
Oh no!
And I was like, "Guys, apparently Sitch really likes Rings of Power." And my
What
chat
the
was like, "Oh my
fuck?
god!"
Look
Who's-
at
wait,
that.
who
And
the
then
fuck is-
Mahler didn't
Oh.
come clean. You DM'd Mahler specifically, and he tried to hide it. He tried to finger it on Dev. Is that what
Well,
happened
actually,
here?
so wait a minute. He didn't say that. He said Dev said he's debating you on it. So I assumed that meant that you told him. But I guess now you're saying no, it wasn't you.
he
No.
he
Well, here, hold on. I'm gonna
he's
go
playing
into
with you guys.
I'm gonna go into my Mahler DM.
Oh
Just
my
give me a
God.
second. We're gonna get to the bottom of this.
Who? Okay, chat. Who was it? Which one of you fuckers is sending lies to me about Mahler? Okay, that he's repeating to hundreds of thousands of people on stream. Huh? Which one of you assholes?
So it sounds like you don't necessarily like Rings of Power. It sounds like maybe you're lukewarm on it. Maybe you don't like it at all.
It was Andrew Clark. Andrew Clark for $2 says it was me in all caps. Wow. Okay.
Wait,
I told
I think-
Mahler not to trust anyone that tells him anything about me anymore.
I think I know who it was.
Who was it?
I think it was Dr. Diddler.
Look, Andrew Clark and Dr. Diddler are teaming up.
Yeah, because Diddler's been the primary guy coming into my chat for the past few days, being like, "So, what about that talk with Sitch about Rings of Power? How's that? Is that still what's going?" He's the one. He's getting into. He's worm tonguing his way into all of our ears. You, me, and Mahler.
Oh my. Well, here's the thing. See, I told Dr. Diddler a while ago that'd be funny for him to tell Mahler all wrong opinions that I have. He took it too far. He took it too far, Dr. Diddler. Okay, S-Class General Dr. Diddler, you must stop it. You must cease the fire, okay? You've taken it too far. The plan has backfired.
It's all-
Anyways, well, I'm glad we got that out of the way. So we should actually probably talk about the show.
You know,
The
for a second,
beef
I thought
is
it was
more
like a
fun.
serious. I I thought it was a serious beef first. I was like, Jesus, what did I do? I mean,
I don't have any serious beefs. Okay.
I've had so many people come out of the woodwork with beefs with me in the past like year or so. I've just been like, what the fuck? So I'm always it's kind of sad, I guess, but I'm always like a little bit on guard now.
Well, you are very divisive. You're very argumentative. You're very aggressive whenever we've had you on. So I understand why people don't like you.
Wow.
Oh man, actually here.
Wow.
So I'm a pretty centrist kind of guy. Here, we won't turn this into a political stream. Give me 30 seconds of politics and we'll talk about Rings of Power, okay? So I'm a centrist. And you guys seem to be pretty centrist as well, I think.
I mean, we coined the term.
Oh, did you guys coin the term?
I copyrighted it. Yeah.
Oh shit, okay. But I think my audience is probably more right-leaning than yours because my audience branched off from Sargon's, and now Sargon's gone more right than he was, say, 5 years ago. But still, there's a lot of overlap between the various YouTubers, right? So I think my audience is probably a bit more right-leaning than me, and I'm more in line with your audience. That's not to say that I hate my own audience.
Well, our audience is way more right-leaning.
Listen to this audience. Dev is jealous of you guys. He's like, I wish Sitch and Adam's audience was my audience.
Well, it pretty much is. I recognize all the names.
Oh, okay.
We have all the same people watching us. But I guess my point is that tomorrow I'm going to be putting out a video, my final official non-fence sitter take on the 2020 election, and I expect to get a lot of shit. A lot of shit because
wow, that's exciting.
At this point, I'm pretty much of the opinion that all of the it was stolen from Trump is like just copium. Nothing has come out.
You're finally coming around to that position.
Well, no. I came around to that position like a year ago. I just didn't talk about it because I just didn't think it was.
Why would you let that build up? I mean, we started talking about it early on.
I was just doing other things, I just didn't think. But then like people kept saying, "Dev, you need to clarify this. You need to." And it's like, Jesus Christ, guys, it's been like 2 years. Fuck. So fine, I'll clarify it. But here's the thing: I watched the Dark Brandon speech.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about.
We covered it on Sunday. Yeah.
Actually, and I covered it on Saturday on the Tubcast. Actually, nice. I think Sitch, you and I talked about it a little bit in DMs. Yeah. And I was just like, nothing in this is actually that bad. Like it's pretty reasonable. I don't know why everyone's losing their fucking mind over it. So I wanted to investigate that. Like, why are people losing their mind over it? And so I started digging back through all the various news stories I've saved up since 2016. And I found like a consistent pattern of people who were Trump fans, who are like wearing their MAGA hats out in the street, who were entirely innocent. And then they get like attacked by random leftoids. It's like, you guys are Nazis, and they like beat them up or something, right? And
this like, actually happens, or this is claimed to happen?
No, actually happened. There's video and stuff.
Oh, okay.
And I put the video in, and I put the video in my video, so you'll be able to see it. It's like stuff from 2017, 2018. And I'm just realizing, like, for a long time, your average person that you could call a MAGA Republican, they were just victimized by like the establishment left for no reason. But now in 2022, they're like morphing into the boogeyman that they were called in 2016. And it's become kind of a strange situation where it's like now when you say that, oh, you guys are anti-democratic, you actually might have a point, but they also have the shield of being called that when it was incorrect 5 years ago.
No, so that was my impression too. Like, well, to be clear, I would say, I mean, I don't think the speech was like the Civil War speech that some people sort of twisted it into. I think it was a bad speech. I don't know if I'd call it reasonable, but I think it was a bad speech.
No, I think I was actually pretty reasonable in the end. My only.
Do you guys think this conversation is going to taint people's opinion of your review of Rings of Power? I mean, I was under the impression we were talking about Rings of Power today. Not
I know.
The 2020
He's
election.
A renegade. So.
I will stop.
Why are you giving away your video for tomorrow? Come on, keep us in suspense.
Well, because I like talking to like-minded people.
How about this? We'll have this conversation at some point
later.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. No problem.
Because we're going to be trying to stream a bunch during the week for a couple hours. So we have a lot more time to just talk to people about anything.
Oh God, Aiden. You know what, Aiden, I love you.
Anyways, let's talk about Ring of Power. Is the Ring of Power's woke and trash? So how should we start this, Adam? Should we give an overview? Should we go through it scene by scene? What do you want to do?
Well, here, I'll start it right now. I'll just say yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Woke and trash. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, do you want to give us your take, Dev? I mean,
yeah, give us your overall take.
Okay, my overall take. Well, first of all, I'm actually like I think I'm like emotionally tainted against it at this point because of all the copyright troubles I had.
I could tell from your video.
You heard about that, right? Where I was just like, Jesus, had to upload it 5 times to make it work. Anyway, so what is your guys' background with Lord of the Rings? How do you guys know it?
I read the books when I was in middle school, and I was like, these are pretty cool. And then I saw the movie, and I was like, that's a good movie. And then I saw the Hobbit movies. I was like, those are not good movies. And that's about it.
I haven't watched Hobbit. I saw the original Lord of the Rings. I thought they were great. I mean, I wasn't super into the books. I think I saw the animated Hobbit
But you
movie.
Can't read, so.
Oh, God, the 1980s?
Yeah, I've seen that. That's not right. I mean, well, I don't
I mean, that's not bad. I mean, it's animated. The dragon's pretty badass.
Right.
So, yeah.
I liked it when I was 10.
Does it hold up? I'm not sure. I mean, I saw it when I was a little kid. So.
I've gone back to see it, and Gollum is the funniest fucking. He's like, my precious.
Yeah.
He's the funniest fucking little.
Is that how he sounds?
Yeah, he's like a little brown goblin, just like scurrying around. It's like, all right.
I would not call myself a purist by any means on the books because I never read the book, so I don't necessarily even know what they say.
The only thing I remember in the books that I liked more than the movies was in the books they go much more into Faramir's character. Like he's way more badass, and his relationship with the whatever her name is kind of more developed. But I think the movies were fantastic.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same. You know, I think I was back in school back in the 2000s when the original Lord of the Rings movies were coming out. I remember all the memes, the boil 'em, mash 'em, stick in a stew. That back then, for all you Zoomers in the chat, back in the day when you were making a meme, you'd make it into like a remix song, and there was just a bunch of remixes made out of Lord of the Rings. Yeah. There's a weird like mirror I can see between this and Star Wars, where the original trilogy is like the original trilogy of Star Wars, and The Hobbit is like
the
prequel trilogy. Yeah, it's like the prequel trilogy of Star Wars, where it's like, yeah, it's like kind of bad and goofy, not nearly as good as the original, but there's still some value there. And then the sequel trilogy is like Rings of Power, where it's just garbage. It's just, there seems to be a mirror. There's like a foil here. Something's going on.
That's interesting. I don't know. I don't agree with this, but continue.
Oh no, why not?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I'm not sure there is value in the Hobbit movie. I'm not sure there's value. Look, there's the only values in the Star Wars prequel movies are the funny memes that came out of it. That's it. There's no other value beyond that. And I guess like some people like the TV show spinoffs, but like the actual movie themselves are just trash.
I mean, they're okay. I think it's like a soft spot. There's like a soft spot in my heart, because I watched them when I was a kid.
Yeah, your nostalgia is blinding you.
Well, I've gone back and watched them. I rewatched all the Star Wars, all 6, and I don't only 6. I watched all 6 recently for my Kenobi video. So like, I've seen them recently, and it's like, yeah, these are goofy and stupid, but they're still fun,
Okay. I don't know.
Sorry.
Horribly boring. The acting is so awful. Everything is just oh my god. It's whatever. We're not here to talk about Star Wars.
Sorry.
Here to talk about Rings of Power.
Maybe it's because like every single scene I can picture a prequels memes thread.
That's what I'm saying. Like literally the 4chan prequel memes, I think revitalized the movie. If it wasn't for that, I don't think anyone would be talking about the prequels being like good.
Well, the Hobbit, it had. Okay, hold on. Here, I'll be more specific. The first Hobbit movie was quite good. The other two, not.
No, you're wrong.
The animated one, I haven't seen that for so long. It's difficult for me to endorse.
It means the live action one.
The first live action one.
That's relatively recently. So. Yeah, everyone said it was trash. Yeah,
it was trash. Dev's wrong, but anyway.
Okay. Well, anyway. So Rings of Power. They've come out and said. I mean, you must have heard about all the various little tidbits of information that have flown in about this show. So like over the past 6 months. So for example,
were you basing your critique of the show on the drama surrounding the show? Or?
No. But the drama justifies why the show is the way it is. So
okay,
example,
why is the show the way? How is the show first? Let's talk about that.
Oh, you want to start with
That's
how the show is first?
Yeah, there's like three.
Seems a good
there's three.
right?
There's three broad storylines going on. Obviously, there's the Gadriel story. There's the Harfoot people story. There's the forbidden love story between the elf and the human woman. For some reason, the only human woman that knows how to take a bath in the entire village. And there's the dwarf alliance storyline.
Right.
So
those are episode 2. Yeah,
those are the broad strokes. Maybe we can start with like, what do you? Obviously, your favorite is probably the Harfoot people storyline because it's like young girl chasing her desire to find adventure, right?
Wait, why would that be my favorite?
Well, I'm just calling Dev a pedo. Like, what?
What the fuck is this?
I'm just saying you'd probably empathize most with.
I thought you were gonna say because he's short and the hobbits are short or something. I thought that's what.
No, that's probably the weakest storyline. So I was just trying to throw shade at Dev like that.
Okay, thanks. Well, here I'll accept the shade because I actually did enjoy that storyline the most.
Did you really?
Oh my
god, I nailed it. I nailed it.
Hold on, not because of the Harfoots. The Harfoots are terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait. Let's explain this to people who haven't seen it. Okay. So there are Harfoots, which are everyone's assuming are proto-hobbits.
Right, yeah.
And basically, they're hobbits who, they hide. No one really knows about them. They live secretly in the forest, and they're just like a kind of nomadic people. And the main thing that happened is a comet, or a meteorite, I guess, falls from the heavens and lands, and the little girl character, main girl hobbit, finds an old man in like the crater impact who has the ability to control the weather and nature around him, and it looks suspiciously like Gandalf, and everyone's assuming that it's Gandalf. If you didn't know this, Gandalf is not a human wizard. He is some kind of angelic being called the Ishtari or something from the heavens that God sent to basically help the world fight off evil. And so it's like, and to me, even though that the storyline is bad, it's the most interesting concept if it is Gandalf, because the concept seems to be Gandalf has now entered the corporeal realm. He doesn't understand how to interact with physical reality because he's existed in like some kind of weird spirit state for all of his existence. And he's trying to like communicate or figure out like how to exist, and he can't. And so it's like he's like yelling at this child and like creating windstorms and killing everything around him, and he's just like accidentally breaking people's feet with magic, and he just can't control anything. And that's what's going on with the Harfoot.
It would be great if you actually knew any of that in the story, because what you laid out is completely fascinating, but none of that is on screen. Yeah. So the person, just the casual viewer does not have this same experience that Sitch is having. Like, I'm sitting here looking at this like, why did this homeless man fall out of the dumpster?
Well, I think that's actually the point, is that the Harfoots don't know, and they'll come to learn over the course
of it. But the audience doesn't know either.
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe that's the mystery, Maybe that's the mystery.
But it's not. But the concept, I guess, and I didn't even think about this last time. To me, the interesting concept is you have an entity who's coming from a non-corporeal existence to corporeal existence, and then trying to understand reality. And if you don't, the show doesn't tell you that.
Yeah, so if you saw a scene of that, it would be much more interesting, because you'd be like, oh my God, this guy is in a completely different realm, and now he has to adapt. Right now you're going, boy, this is fucking slow.
Like, it's just an old homeless man yelling at children, and you're like, I don't know why this is happening.
Yeah, exactly.
To be clear, we're talking about episodes 1 and 2 because they both came out. So we're talking about both of them, right?
We watched them both. Yeah.
So, all right. So, I understand what you're saying. It's just that if you've watched a lot of TV or a lot of movies, there's always that story type where the hero interacts with someone whom they can't communicate with, and they seem to be like a child in an adult's body, and so they're like grabbing at food very territorially. They're inquisitive, they're friendly, but they're also kind of feral. This is a story that you see in a lot of shows, and it's all over the place. So you can kind of tell what they're doing when you see whatever her name is. What's her name? Mary? I don't know. You see Nori. You see Nori interact with the stranger, which is what they call him. You can see what they're doing there. You can kind of pick up on it just by body language.
Mm-hmm.
I still think it would be much better if there was a scene of, you know, Gandalf in the corporeal realm as Sitch describes
Incorporeal realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then we see.
I think that would give away too much too early. I think that they have to like build up to that.
Well, they're trying to surprise you, but at the same time, all of these scenes need to be interesting, and they're just not. They're slow and boring.
Well, here's the thing. I think that every single Harfoot scene, until the stranger's introduced, is just boring.
Is slow and boring. Exactly.
Yep. But after he shows up, they're actually pretty interesting. It's a pretty interesting story, I think. Watching the two of them interact and kind of figure it out, that's actually pretty fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there is some mystery. You finally get some storyline out of Nori because obviously she wants to figure out what's going on here. Mm-hmm. I feel like it would be better as an audience if you had some of this information, so you were, you know, you would enjoy the interactions much more if you knew the source of the miscommunication going on. As it is, we know none of that. So
in defense of the show, and this is the only time I'll really defend.
Look at this. Look at what's going on here.
Dev loves Rings of Power on Amazon.
Which did you vote for?
How much
fan
they
blog?
You, Dev? How much do they pay you?
Negative money considering my revenue. Okay, in defense of the show, in this instance, you guys are assuming it's Gandalf, but when I was watching it with the Thursday night watch party,
right,
with Kibbs and Arch and everyone else, we were watching it, and none of us thought it was Gandalf. We all thought it was Sauron. And the reason that we thought of it, yes, and the reason that we think it's Sauron is, one, because when he uses the magic on all of the what are they called? Those bugs that light up.
Lightning bugs, fireflies.
Fireflies, yes. So when he uses his magic on the fireflies, they all die. Remember that scene? They all just die.
Well, he talks to them. But here's the thing. He whispers to them in the exact same way that Gandalf whispers to the moth in the Lord of the Rings movie, and then they kind of they form with their lightning bodies the little constellation in the sky. Mm-hmm. So it's like he's trying to explain to the hobbits maybe either where he's trying to go or where he came from.
Yep.
And then, like, I don't know, something happens. Doesn't he like kind of like waver, and then they all die?
Yeah. See, I was thinking that was dark magic. Secondly,
dark magic, though, is the black on the leaf at the end of the thing. Like, it has a very clear look to it.
Well, also it's because, secondly, in the subtitles of the episode, he's called the Stranger, and the Stranger is Sauron's name. That's his title.
I thought Sauron's name was like the Gift Giver or something.
No, there's a period in the lore where Sauron returns to Earth and he basically kind of charms his way into power, and during this period, he's called the Stranger. So it's his name.
I'm pretty sure. I thought he was called the Lord of Gifts at that time.
If I had to bet, I would bet on the Gandalf storyline over Sauron.
Moreover, it's several thousand years too early for Gandalf to show up in the original timeline.
Well, they're not keeping with the timeline, I assume.
Yeah, that's bullshit.
Right. So,
but if they were, this would be too early for Gandalf to show up.
Well, okay. Here's what I think it's. I thought when I first saw it, I thought it was either Gandalf or one of the Blue Wizards, and I was like, no, it's gonna be Gandalf because, like, if you're creating a show and you want people to watch it, you know, obviously they're gonna go with Gandalf because that's gonna get people to watch the show.
Yeah, he's the most recognizable character.
Show. Yeah, and so to me, I mean, first of all, he looks literally exactly like Gandalf. You know, he looks as much like Gandalf as someone who's not Ian McKellen could look. You know, a young Gandalf. He falls in a comet from the sky, and Gandalf would be coming from heavens. He's like the keeper of the flame and stuff. He's associated with fire. Where Sauron was already in Middle Earth, wasn't he? Because he was fucking around with Morgoth. He was his #1 general. I mean, that's what Galadriel's looking for Sauron. So why would he be falling out of the sky?
Something happened to him at some point where he also became non-corporeal. I don't
buy it.
But it did happen. It did happen in the original lore. But it's also that, like, the fire that he was in wasn't actually hot to the touch.
Right.
And we know from Galadriel's story that you know there's when they were in a place so cold that the fire didn't hurt them.
That's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
The evil made the fire cold. Yeah.
Yep. And Sauron's his whole thing is about darkness and fire. So and the way he controlled the non-hot fire. So I think, I mean, I could be wrong. Who knows? This is just prediction. I think it's Sauron.
No, it's a good it's a good point there with the fire.
Right. Well,
and here's why, by the way, I think this show is going to really be bad going forward. If it is Sauron, that's going to be retroactive justification as to why the One Ring didn't affect hobbits so much in comparison to everyone else. So they're going to say it was actually Nori who did everything in the original movie.
That would be so lame. Oh, that'd be so lame.
That would be horrible.
But you can see it, though.
I could see it.
Yeah, you can see them doing that.
I mean, it would be really interesting if they had like the little girl characters helping the weird stranger, and then it's like wrong, he's evil, and you fucked everyone. Like that would be like a great twist. I don't see that happening. I'm still gonna bet my money on this is Gandalf. I don't think Sauron would be confused about being corporeal again. Even if he was incorporeal at some point, he's been corporeal. He shouldn't be that confused by this. And he just seems more confused and like he seems more confused and malicious, I guess.
Dude, where is Sauron right now?
Sauron. I keep saying Sauron.
Where's Sauron?
We don't know.
Well, that's the thing.
I mean, obviously there's
in
the magic on the leaf that the king sees. So he's in Middle Earth, right? I mean, he hasn't left Middle
Something
Earth.
is corrupting there's like this giant tree where the elves live that has something to do with preserving the beauty, I think, of the elven city or world. And at the end of the first episode, a leaf falls off and the king turns it over and you see it's corrupted with like black gook, and he hears like the whispering
cow.
Yeah, like the cow, and he hears the whispering like, dark Sauron voice from Lord of the Rings. Yes.
Also, apparently I said Sargon at one point. Sorry, guys.
Well, I'm just
the
asking.
Chat's like, oh my God, Sargon the Corruptor.
I'm asking because of the theory that Sauron is in it's the corporeal realm. That's what it is.
Well, Middle Earth.
Corporeal, yeah.
Oh,
okay. Corporeal, yes, Middle Earth, yeah.
And he's coming back inside the meteorite. That would mean he's left, but I feel like the story set it up that he's still in Middle Earth.
That's what we're supposed to believe, because so if you haven't seen the show, the main plot is Galadriel, her brother. So basically the elves had this giant war with Morgoth. Morgoth was Sauron's boss, essentially.
Yeah.
The elves managed to defeat Morgoth and kill him or banish him, or he's gone now. But Sauron escaped and is somewhere out there in Middle Earth. And so Galadriel spends hundreds of years looking for him and is unable to find him, but she's hell-bent on revenge for her brother dying in the war against Morgoth.
Right. Yes.
Yep.
And
now none of this actually happened in the original lore.
Right.
And the humans supposedly sided with Morgoth in the war.
Yes.
Only one group of humans, the southern humums.
The only humans we've seen so far.
The southern humans sided with Morgoth.
Yeah. Which here's something that's very strange. So, you know how there's always the whole diversity hire trope. You got to make your medieval European town diverse, put a few black people in there, right? And it's like, okay, well, Jesus Christ. But the place where I guess we should talk about the second storyline now. We can kind of transition to the second storyline.
Yeah, let's do it.
Which is the Black Elf storyline.
The Forbidden Love story.
Yes, the Forbidden Love. In the location where they are, those are supposed to be like Arab-looking people.
Yeah, weren't they? Don't they show them in Lord of the Rings, or is that a different people?
Yeah, the Haradrim.
The mercenary people that they kill and take their boats.
I think it's in the same area of the world. This is if you look at the original Lord of the Rings world map, which you always see in the movies, this is south of the main action, and there's a human kingdom down there, and they're supposed to be more like olive skinned, but they just made it like a generic European town for some reason. But it is. Right. So that's kind of where they are right now. And the
what reason throwing Whitey under the bus?
What reason? For some reason. For some reason, what reason would that be? What reason would you think that would be?
I think the reason would be that they just really want to make a show that looks like Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's probably the real reason.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
They saw how popular Game of Thrones was, and like, we'll just do that, and we'll make it all about noble houses and Eurocentric stuff, even though that's not really what Lord of the Rings was in the end.
Let me read some super chats relating to this. Ascendant Media for $2 says, you guys don't know your Tolkien lore. That is true. I haven't read the Silmarillion. Silmarillion. I haven't read Tifa's book on Lord of the Rings, on Sauron, but I have seen videos on YouTube about it. That's the extent of my lore knowledge, so it's fine. This is going to be from a normie more perspective of the show. Stuck for $5 says rage intensifies. All the Maiar and Valar can be incorporeal if they want to. It's their natural state. They choose physical forms because they can. Cameraman 502 for $5 says also for $10 says there have been 2 episodes and nothing happened. No inciting incident. Nothing. See House of Dragon, how they got the story moving from episode 1. Also pretty sure Gandalf was in Valinor incorporeal before becoming a wizard. That's possible. That's definitely possible. I'm just trying to interpret what the show is going for. The show appears to be going for Gandalf is confused with corporeal existence. That's my interpretation of the scene. And
to be fair to your point of view, I think there's 5 wizards that came down. They all came down in meteors. So
they all did.
Yeah. So there was Gandalf, there was Radagast, there was Saruman, and then there was 2 other guys who were just
2 blue wizards.
Yeah, they just like went off to another part of the world and they just weren't involved in any story.
Fucked off somewhere. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So this wizard couldn't be one of them because they are not involved in the story in any way, shape, or form. They're just ancillary.
Yep. They landed in lands outside of the continent of Middle Earth. Okay. They're in different parts of the planet.
They're all supposed to help Middle Earth fight against evil, and none of them do it except for Gandalf, essentially. Or they all become corrupted, or they become distracted with other things. Mm-hmm. So anyway, talking about the Black Elf White Lady love story.
Oh, I do want to point out one more thing before we move on from that, though, real quickly. The reason that the hobbits are called Harfoots is because Amazon couldn't get the right to the name Hobbit.
Yes. So the Amazon couldn't get the name for a lot of things. So there's someone questioning they couldn't get the rights to the name of Gandalf. So maybe even if it is Gandalf, they'll never call him Gandalf.
They're just going to call him the Stranger.
Someone says they literally came in boats, not meteors.
Some of them, hold on. Some of them sailed to Middle Earth, because they landed somewhere else. But no,
you said they all came in meteors. You lied.
I've definitely read that some of them, that they all came in meteors, but then some of them came to Middle Earth after landing somewhere else.
Oh, maybe they came to Valinor in meteors, and then they took a boat from Valinor to Middle Earth?
Maybe, yes.
Okay. So, there's something, too, that I guess we have to address. In the book, if you guys remember in Lord of the Rings movies, you remember at the end, Frodo goes with the elves, and he goes across the sea to live off in Valinor. And it's, kind of supposed to be heaven, but it's not really made clear what it is. I think in the books, there's supposed to be an actual, physical place. But in this new show, we see a boat going to Valinor, and it looks not like a physical place. It's like the boat is approaching this area, and the sky fucking opens up and bright light shines through, and the elves get absorbed into it and fucking vanish. So I'm assuming that in the show that Valinor is not exactly the way it was in the books.
So keep in mind, guys, all of my reading on this was 15, 20 years ago. So I'm also kind of a bit rusty, but from what I remember, Valinor was a continent across the sea that was the homeland of the elves, and they basically came to Middle Earth because they were chasing Sauron to it, I think.
Yeah,
however,
I think so. Yeah.
However, you can't get to Valinor unless you can't just sail there. You have to know how to get there.
Right.
It to really go back into references, it's kind of like the island in Lost, where as that show went on, it was revealed that it was basically in a bubble, and you could only get there by a certain heading, even though it was out in the middle of the ocean. You should be able to just find it, but it's actually a very specific way you have to go to get there. So it's kind of the same thing, where it's a whole other continent, but just sailing and exploring like Christopher Columbus won't actually get you there.
Right. Yeah, I'm just saying in the show, it seems more not physical in the show.
Yeah, it's like a holy land, in a sense, but it's still a land, though.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I don't know, because it's obviously supposed to be like heaven, so it's obviously supposed to be like divine experience. Like that, when the elves are approaching it, they literally start breaking out into song. They can hear song, and they're singing, and it's they're being elevated to some higher existence. So, but anyway, we'll talk about that when we get there. So let's go back to Black Elf guy. Okay, in the town.
Right.
How do you feel about that storyline, Adam?
I mean, I'm getting a little tired of these recycled social justice storylines.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I've seen the forbidden love storyline over and over and over again. So for me, it just feels a little worn out. So,
okay. So I guess I should explain for those who haven't seen it. There's a town that is a bunch of humans are living there. These are the humans that sided with Morgoth versus the elves 1,000 years ago. It's like everyone looks poor and terrible. And as Adam said, they all look dirty and filthy except for the one hot lady.
Right.
The one hot single mother who's like, she's the only one that takes a bath and looks attractive. And currently the elves have a outpost station right above this town. And they watch the town because they're like, these humans sided with Morgoth 1,000 years ago. So we need to make sure they're like not going to do that again. We got to keep an eye on them, make sure they're not still evil. And all the townspeople resent the elves for basically, doing this.
Basically being like a superior race, and they're up there because they have like all their elven magic, and they're living grand. Meanwhile, they live in shit. Yeah.
Yeah, you see like the elves on their tower. They all look like it's like clean and nice looking, and then you see their town looks like a fucking shithole.
Many of the elves are racist against the town folk. Yes.
Yeah, the elves are super racist against the humans. The humans are super racist against the elves, except of course the main elf character, who we're calling Black Elf because I don't remember his name.
He's a Black Elf, yeah.
He is in a love affair with the only attractive woman in town, and I'm assuming that the child that she has is really his child, and that the child is like a half elf, half human child.
Perhaps, yeah. We haven't seen the kid's ears yet, right?
I don't buy it at all because race is a social construct. So even if he looks dark, you can't say anything about that, Sitch.
Right. Well, the kid looks mulatto, and you haven't seen his ears, so I'm assuming that's going to be the reveal.
Right.
The obvious reveal. Yeah.
So also, what's going on is besides the town folk being racist against the elves, is the little kid somehow randomly finds under some person's barn in this town an evil Sauron sword, which seems to be slowly possessing the child or taking over his mind, and they have found out that in the next town over, everyone in town disappeared, and apparently there were orcs who, for some mysterious reason, dug tunnels underneath the town and abducted or killed all the goblins. No, they were orcs.
Yeah.
I think
they were goblins.
Goblins are small, aren't they?
Not in Lord of the Rings. I mean, they're small, but like they're still like human-sized.
Wait, no, what was in the Hobbit? Weren't they? Don't the hobbits go into that goblin den? Aren't those all goblins?
Let me look it up. Hold on. Let me see. Well, because I think orcs are made out of the corpses of elves, I think, but goblins are just like a race that are hanging around.
Well, whatever. I think that.
Oh no! Wait, goblins and orcs are the same thing. Okay.
Oh, they are. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, they're just.
Well, anyway, yeah. So they're orc goblin, creatures. I don't know. We don't know why yet. They seem to either killed or abducted all the humans, and they're slowly digging holes into this main town. With the where the main characters are. So
yeah.
Right, and
Hey Rags, what's going on?
Hey Rags, aren't you doing EFAP right now?
Yeah, what the hell?
Rags, we have uncovered the traitor Mauler's deception.
Yes. It was Dev. I mean, it was not Dev.
It was Sitch.
Yeah, there you go. It was me the whole time. So anyway,
do you think this is going to develop anything more than the forbidden love storyline?
Well, here's the big problem. Okay, here's the problem with it. I don't mind the forbidden love story.
Right.
I don't even mind. So everyone's complaining about there's this one scene right in the beginning of that sequence where
they're like they force in the racial component just by making the elf like black. Yeah.
Yeah, but no one's concentrating on the race in the universe of the show.
No, they are though. Human elf is the race component.
Okay, you're right. I meant like black versus white race, not like elf versus human race.
But it's still like shoehorned in there because it's not a Romeo and Juliet story where it's like I was raised on the wrong side of the tracks. It's like a race thing. It's totally, it's it's a civil rights storyline that you would have seen in like the 1960s. And I don't know. Now we're forced to relive those movies in fantasy realms now. I feel it completely takes me out of the movie.
So I don't necessarily mind forbidden love stories, but I think the fact that they made the actor black,
yes, that's like
too fine a point on it.
That's a giant point. It's like, look, if we didn't hit you over the head enough with the fact that, you know, she's a human and he's an elf, here, let's make the actor black to really, you know, send it home.
Mm-hmm. And they could have done that same story without making him a black elf.
Sure.
And it would have made more sense because there are no black elves.
They didn't have to make it like a forbidden. Well, I guess it could have been a forbidden love situation. I don't know how important the kid character is and whether or not she actually is the son of this guy. Which, I mean, if
the son of Sauron, everyone's Sauron, it turns out.
Yes.
No, I think Arondir is his name, something along that lines. But if he's, I mean, if that kid's a son, I mean, you think it's a son. I didn't even suspect that just because, wow, shit father, right? I mean, doesn't even know who his dad is.
Well, so someone says a line like, "Oh, your dad left you," and then the kid said, "My dad didn't leave me."
Oh, so maybe the kid knows is what you're saying.
Yeah, and they said, "Well, where is he?" And then he didn't answer. So I'm assuming the kid knows. I mean, obviously he's got if he has elf ears, he knows he's, you know, half elf or something.
Right, and we haven't seen the kid's ears yet. So.
And obviously, I mean, the town folks must be fucking stupid because the kid. I mean, I haven't seen any other black people in town, and the kid looks like he's mixed race. So I don't know how the town
social construct.
What's I mean. All four storylines, 3 of the 4 are basically social justice shoe-ins, right? The dwarf storyline is the only one that you can say, okay, this is devoid of politics.
Well, yeah. Well, they all have social justice-y stuff shoehorned in them. This one has like the most thematic social justice,
right?
Because everyone's mad about the mixed race marriage or relationship.
What really?
Oh, you're right.
Really
you're right.
Bad.
They even put it in the dwarf story. Oh my god!
No, I don't mean the dwarf story. I meant the elf and the lady story.
Yeah,
right.
So what makes the storyline bad is just the characters are boring.
Yes,
they're just bored. Like you could have a story where you have the forbidden love between a human and an elf, and there's a child that has to be kind of kept secret, and he finds the broken remains of Sauron's sword, and then there's goblins tunneling under the city, and then there's corrupted lands, and then a cow ends up squirting out black milk. You could do all of that, but you have to give your characters personality, and they don't have any personality.
Look, I have no problem with social justice storylines. You know, activist movies; those are fine. My problem is when they're competing for your attention with the actual plot of the movie in some fantasy movie that's supposed to like take you away from those kind of politics.
Mm-hmm.
So that when it becomes surface, when it's like, okay, it's obvious what they're doing here. That's for me when it becomes a problem.
Right. Well, I mean, I agree exactly what Dev said, which is that, I mean, my big problem with what's the black elf guy's name? I don't want to keep saying the black elf.
Yeah.
Just say it.
It's the elf of color. The EOC.
The elf of color.
EOC. It's Aaron. Arondir is his name.
Arendelle?
Well, my problem with Durdur here is that he, as you say, he has no personality. He has no personality. He is like a Vulcan.
He calls that other guy smelly, though. What do you mean?
No, that's the other elf that's talking to him. Calls humans smelly.
No, he calls he's walking with his friend when they do the whole.
Oh, right. Okay,
this is never going to work out. You don't understand.
Yeah.
You know, interracial marriages always break up.
Regardless, he has no personality. His personality, like all the other elves have personalities, even if you don't like them, but he has no personality. He's just like a Vulcan, which maybe Vulcans in some respects were supposed to be like Tolkien elves.
Like space elves, yeah.
Yeah, like space elves.
Who wrote that Rotten Leaves line? That's what I want to know.
So he's just so incredibly boring. And they miss an opportunity here because his character should really be that all the elves are racist against the humans, all the humans are really racist against the elves, and he should be like like a very sympathetic character who's very sympathetic to the plight of the humans, and he actually emotes in a way that shows that he's empathetic and sympathetic to the fact that, you know, we shouldn't be judging these humans for something their ancestor did a fucking 1,000 years ago. But all that is lost just because he's like a cardboard cutout. He doesn't emote. He doesn't do anything. He's just
1,000
like,
years ago for an elf is like just yesterday, though. So they're big time grudgers. They're like,
well, there's a second problem though, is that you actually can't give the elves too much personality, which is very strange because, well, no, seriously, because the whole idea of Tolkien's elves is that they were like legitimately a superior race. They were they were otherworldly in how they behave and how they act. But the problem with doing that kind of character is if you hang around with them for more than 5 minutes, you realize they're just people in costumes, which is why you only see like 2 scenes with Galadriel in the original movies. The only person that you hang around with through the entire all 3 movies who's an elf is Legolas. And you kind of get away with it because he's still kind of young by elf standards. So you kind of get away with it in that sense. But he still shows off like his physical superiority and how he can hear, he can see, he can do these athletic feats.
That's different than his emotions, though.
Especially
because it was Orlando Bloom playing Legolas, and he just.
Are you saying he's a bad actor?
Why would I ever imply that Orlando Bloom is not a good actor? Why would I ever imply that?
Can you do an elfin supremacist movie in this day and age? I'm not sure that you can, to be honest with you.
You should though, because it'd be a good story. But no, like the only reason that you only see like a little bit of Galadriel, and you see only a little bit of Agent Smith. What's his name again?
Elrond.
Elrond. Sorry, Jesus Christ, Elrond. You see only a little bit of him, is because if you see too much of them, the illusion of what the elves are starts to break apart. Because real life human actors can't act that way. From me, from my intuition.
Oh, from you. Okay, because Elrond has emotions.
Yes, I'm not saying they can't have emotions. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, that's why he started Scientology.
I'm just saying that the otherworldly aspect is lost if you see them too much.
I understand what you're saying. That they should kind of have this kind of above it, like, you know, nature to them that makes them distinguished from humans, which they kind of do a little bit in the movies. But I was listening to people who were like really big lore fans. They were praising Durdur because he acts that way, but from a normie perspective, I just find his character horribly boring and flat, and I don't think that's a good way to have a character be portrayed at all, even if it makes sense lore-wise.
That's the balance, right? Because you that's what I mean. If you see them too much, they just seem like cardboard cutouts. So there's like a balance you have to walk where you have to be above it all. You have to be a superior being, but you also can't be boring. And the best way to walk that is to not have elves as your main characters.
Sure.
Or you could just make elves who are really boring and stone-faced and uninteresting. You could just have them be your main characters for your TV show.
Ruin your show.
You could just do that. I think I was before we just wrapped up.
Hi, Rex.
Oh, hello. Hi.
Hi, Rex.
Hi. Hey. Hi.
I was actually in the EFAP chat stalling before I came here.
I saw you in there. We finished up a super chat catch up, and before we went live, we were talking a little bit about Rings of Power, as we do. We always talk about Rings of Power, and I said that Galadriel was she was stoic without the virtue. She was unable to have like emotions, not that she was suppressing them because of some reason or because she was taking control over her emotions and something like that. There was no maturity angle to it. It was just, I don't think you can have emotions.
I didn't find her stoic at all, though. I found her revenge driven and angry all the time.
I wouldn't say angry. She's just a bitch.
Well, I mean, but that's why, because she's so angry. She's so like, I'm so angry, I got revenge.
Because there are characters I like who are female and who do have a very like rough, gruff, no nonsense kind of personality. I mean, I think Savika from Arcane, I really like that character, and she has those traits. But with Galadriel, I guess what are y'all talking about specifically?
We haven't really dived into the
Galadriel
storyline.
We talked about the Gandalf. I think it's Gandalf. That's Meteor Man. Dev thinks it's Sauron.
And the store-brand hobbits. We talk about them.
I think he's Saruman.
Oh, really?
Isn't he supposed to be Saruman? Doesn't he always have white hair?
I don't fucking know. I have no clue. I honestly have no clue. It could be any of them. I'm not even going to speculate because the plot of this is it's so meandery.
Yes.
It's very slow.
Yes.
Everyone agrees. It's very slow.
We're talking about the Black Elf storyline right now.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So
the worst one I think of the four.
I think I would. Oh, which one is the worst? Oh, yeah. We're not even saying which one is the best. Which one is the worst?
This one's just boring, I think.
I think I found the Harfoot Meteor Man one the least interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really
there we go, right there.
It's a toss-up.
I completely disagree, Regs. I actually enjoyed that.
I totally
That's one that I enjoyed the most. Yeah.
It's so everything is predictable. Everything is completely predictable.
I enjoy that type of storyline where you have an innocent person who is
little girl. Say it.
No. I'm talking about Sauron here. The stranger. I'm talking about the stranger here, where he's new to the world. And he's a child in an adult's body. He's trying to figure out what's going on. He can't say anything. He's clearly intelligent, but he's not capable of communication. And
so you don't like it for.
Then you have a regular person who's interacting with them and trying to teach them about the world. That's always a fun story to me, and whenever I see it in anything. So I enjoyed that one.
You like what kind of story it is. That's why you like it,
not
because
the
of
way
kind of story, but not the story itself. You just it's the genre you like.
We're gonna take what we can get with this show, okay?
Oh, I understand. Because when people, if there are people who really like this show and think it's good, I am curious to know what they actually do like about this show because it seems so empty to me. I can't pull anything from this of value. Not a single character, not a single plot point, not a location. There's just nothing here for me to sink my teeth into.
No, I mean, I agree with Dev sort of, and I like the way you phrase it, Rags. I like the concept of what I think they're trying to do with Meteor Man, but I don't think it's portrayed in any way that's particularly interesting.
We can if you take the concept of our three sort of plot lines, right? You have Galadriel, who is, I guess the idea is a warrior who wants to track down the evil force that killed her brother, right? Yeah. That's what it is at the core. It's horrifically executed, but at the core, it's a fine story. And then when you move on to the, I'll have to look up because I don't want to call him Black Elf. He has a name, but I can't remember.
Erendir.
I think it's Erendir.
And Branwen.
We've been calling her the MILF. So
MILF. MILF. She is firmly in MILF squarely in MILF territory. She is the only clean person who wears colors.
You can't think of anything you like about the show? Nothing?
But
not one thing? I mean, they do have a decent looking MILF in here, right?
There's a nice MILF.
She looks like a decent looking MILF.
I like, as
absolutely.
I said before Rags came, I like the concept of the Gandalf storyline. I don't think the execution was very good. Beyond that, I mean, no, I'm not sure there's anything. I mean, I kind of liked Elrond and Duran. You know, it was okay. Yeah, I mean, I think that was the strongest, the strongest part of the show, but that's not saying a lot.
I think I think that whole segment in Khazad-dûm had one good part, and it was the scene on the elevator when Durin is explaining why
he's upset. Yes,
why he's upset. That is the only good scene in the 2 episodes, and it is immediately undercut by everything Durin does after that, as if none of this ever happened. It's ultimately completely lacking in any sort of consequence whatsoever. It's, as far as I'm aware, unless they do something with it, it literally is a waste of time that accomplishes nothing, and in fact, sort of does damage to Durin.
You're not talking about the
Indisa to a
degree. You like the lift scene, right? That's what you were talking about, where he gives him a hard time because he has dissed him forever and ever. Yeah, I thought obviously that's sort of out of character for like a tough as nails dwarf, but I actually
no, it isn't.
Well, I like that part of it because it's like ironic. It goes against character. It's kind of like
No, I don't think so at all. Even if we take into account in the Fellowship of the Ring, Gimli is distraught when he learns of Balin's death. Like he cries out inside of the tomb.
You're totally right. Yeah,
dwarves are very. They have a strong familial
connection.
Right.
Yeah,
but it was the only scene in the whole. Only scene in the whole 2 episodes and 2 hours of content. That was the only scene where I was like, "Oh, I understand this character's perspective, and I agree with why he's behaving this way."
They did set it up though, in that they just had this like rock breaking contest for hours and hours and hours. So they did set it up how he's kind of just a ruffian. So the idea that a ruffian,
he's strong like a dwarf. It's a stamina contest.
Sure.
Meant for outsiders, pretty much. It's pretty much specifically designed for outsiders, I would imagine.
Should we finish up the Arendir?
Yeah, let's just finish up that.
Yeah, because we're still in the middle of that.
What part are you on?
I guess we're done it.
There's only one thing I wanted to talk about. Was that the scene that everyone was complaining about is the bar scene right in the beginning, where in the bar, Hank Rogers, the Black Elf, is being yelled at by one of the townsfolk.
Right.
And, he's like, you need to get out of here, blah, 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 blah. And people are kind of like throwing this like it's like a woke scene. But obviously
it's just poorly written.
It has that feeling because it's a white guy yelling at a black guy. But I don't think it really is. Like, if you think about what's actually happening, it's kind of anti-woke because the elves are the ones who are in the wrong. In that situation.
But what do we always
being racist against the humans?
People, is like Mahler was saying this earlier, people don't know how to write bigotry anymore. It's so like, this isn't how I feel that would manifest. Just to be clear, when we come to the elves are racist thing, they specifically have a scene where an elf guard climbs up a tower to talk to Erendir to be racist towards humans twice, and then he fucks off. And that's the whole point of the scene.
That elves are racist against humans,
because we don't have the talent in the writing to portray an underlying bigotry over time passively in the ways that it would probably really manifest. Sideways glances and a bit of mistrust here and there, and maybe some small subtle things. They have to be blatant about it for the idiots watching this.
It's not just that people lack talent to write it. It's that overt actual racism has been gone for so long that people don't know what it looks like anymore.
They think it's what they think it's the shit they see on Twitter, and they get told, "Oh, this is racism." And it's like, no, it's.
Are you saying? Are you suggesting that the elf should have come into town and been like, "What you boys talking about here?"
Yeah, actually, that would have made a lot more sense.
Sitch, you know what we're always talking about how there's a difference between what people feel optically and what is actually going on logically in the storyline. Yes. That's the key to that scene right there. Right. I completely agree with you that logically, it's not really the racist narrative that we're used to, but your gut, And I'm curious if you think that if that was intentional, like the gut reaction. People know that there's a difference.
This is like my $1 million question with the show, is that there's multiple scenes.
Yes.
And that's one of them where exactly what you're saying, the optics kind of portray like wokeness in one direction, but then if you actually think about what's happening, it's the opposite.
Yes.
And I can't tell if the writers are aware of this at all.
Right.
Or it's just like incompetence.
It could be incompetence. I'm willing to admit that. Well, obviously we'll see. So
I think I kind of have something that might help out here. So, oh God, what was it called? There's a cartoon in the 90s about a black superhero with lightning powers.
Static Shock?
You're talking about Static
Shock. Yes. I used a clip of that in my video last week called Hollow Representation. I did. Yeah. And that clip was it was a story that tackled racism, and it had, the black guy goes over to his white friend's house and the dad treats him poorly. And it, like, people were posting that clip on Twitter recently and saying, oh, all these anti-SJW types, they think that media in the 90s wasn't political. Well, look at this. And it's like, The difference.
I don't remember ever saying that.
Well, the difference is though that was done well. That was done well. Like it was.
Because I wasn't being preached at.
Exactly. They
it's
actually
like old Star Trek.
They knew what racism was, and they could present it and then show you why it was bad, and they could actually make that into an entertaining, half-hour show. They didn't preach at you, and they didn't present caricatures of racist people.
This is how you would actually encounter racism.
Yes. I didn't watch all of Static Shock, but I saw a lot of it growing up. It wasn't one of my favorite shows because I was racist. And I couldn't like a black superhero.
Now that we've established Sitch's credentials.
Right. But no, I don't remember any episode that I saw they ever even talked about racism. Was there like a very special racism episode or something that I missed?
I think it was something like that. Yeah, it's just basically one of his friends from school has a racist dad, and he goes.
Oh, wait, I seen that clip. I know what you're talking. Okay, now I remember. Yeah, I seen that clip. Yeah, but like 99% of the show, nothing to do with racism. He's just a black superhero, and it's just no one talks about it. And that's the way I think it should be done. In a situation.
Because in the 90s, you just weren't. People's brains weren't focused on race all the time.
Right.
Yep. Yeah. And that also meant that there was actually enough space for when there actually was a real racist character. You could portray them. You could portray them for what they are and show that it's bad, and not just make a caricature of what you think a racist is.
That's true. Yeah, the Static Shock wasn't the 90s. It was like the early 2000s or something.
Well, I thought it was like 99. I mean, either it doesn't matter, I guess. But still, the point
time period.
Same difference.
Yeah. The point remains though is that I think overt racism has been gone from society for so long that these people are literally just writing anecdotes of what they see on Twitter. Like, this is racist. I'll put it in my Lord of the Rings show. And it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, this is how racists behave. This is what they do. It's like, it's so on the nose and blatant and theatrical that it's just not what you'd expect. Mm-hmm. It's not what I just can't believe it. I no longer think that these are characters in a universe. I'm just thinking about words typed out on a script that someone wrote, as I've been pulled out of it.
How about that Rotten Leaves line? Oh my God, that was hilarious.
What was the Rotten Leaves line?
When he told him he smelled like rotten leaves. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
I laughed my ass off.
Nice. You Adam, you're just the king of segues.
Am I? Oh, you want to move on to Gadriel's storyline?
Let's talk about Gladriel.
Gadriel.
Yeah, I think
Gladriel. What is it?
Completely.
You guys skipped over the hilarious comedy sketch that was "I Think You Smell." No,
well,
I don't.
I mean, did you guys cover it? Yes. Yeah, I mean it's just
we covered the show.
Who here has smelled rotten leaves? Because I don't think I've ever smelled rotten leaves in my entire life.
I have, yeah.
I probably have, yeah. I just don't recall the smell. I mean,
they couldn't think of something that would actually, people were familiar with.
Okay, I guess I don't know. I know what rotten leaves. Well, what I thought they meant is like when you have like damp, rotting leaves in like a pile.
Rotting leaves is like rotting leaves is like when you have damp, rotting leaves. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to describe it. It has a specific smell. It's not a good
smell. This guy
sleeps. Rake up a big pile of leaves.
This guy sleeps in like a leaf pile or something. Like,
I've never smelled a person smell like that.
What does this tell us about the character?
I'll tell you what happened.
I don't even know if elves.
They're like, we need a funny joke here about how he smells bad. And they're like,
right.
Well, what
but
do
it has to be politically correct.
Well, they go, well, it can't be garbage. It has to be nature related because they're elves. And they're like, well, what smells bad in nature? They're like, poop. Well, no, poop. That's too juvenile.
Elves wouldn't say the word poop. Elves would
leaves,
not refer to fecal
rotting
matter.
Leaves. There you go. Done. Let's move on.
Yeah. No.
Well, actually, Regs, that's a good point, though. Regs, that's actually a really good point because elves wouldn't talk about those kind of things, which is why it's ridiculous that as they're walking away from the village,
I mean, surely it comes up, right? Like elves have to poop, don't they?
Well, yeah, but I guess the point that I'm making is that when Arendir and the other guy walk away, the other guy is basically chiding him for having a sexual relationship with the human woman, and it's like elves wouldn't talk about that. That's not like they don't make sex jokes with each other. That's
These
kind
are
of the
racist
point.
elves,
it's this. Well,
yeah, he should have said. He should have clapped back at him and said,
"Human," and
he should have clapped back and said, "You smell like MILF."
Yeah, but the comedy of that scene wasn't that the relationship with the human was being acknowledged. The comedy of that scene, and every time I say comedy, imagine like 78 quotes around it.
Comedy.
It's more quotes than words.
The comedy of that scene.
Well, it's when Arendir told him that he smelled bad, and he said, "No, I don't." And then Arendir walks away. He smells himself, and the scene ends. That's fucking hilarious. And you definitely didn't know he was going to sniff himself before it happened.
Yeah.
Right.
I guess I don't know. There's a part of me that's kind of glad that this isn't trying to be a comedy show. Like, yeah, it had that moment in it, but it's trying to go for serious and thoughtful. Well, I guess it depends on the kind of story that you're telling me. Like, The Hobbit could be a comedy, right? If you wanted to write The Hobbit as a comedy, it's got this lightheartedness to it that could owe itself well to a well-written comedy, but they're trying to go for a more serious and artful, more prosaic and wordy sort of story. And maybe Marvel has just turned me off of everything needing to be comedy. Like, Thor: Love and Thunder was a catastrophe, and She-Hulk is also a catastrophe. Like, it's just fresh in the brain. Yeah. I don't want anything. I don't want to experience joy anymore. I just want you to tell me a story. God damn it!
You don't want all your characters to have that Marvel personality where they're all like giving the quippy, snappy one-liners every 2 seconds.
Well, if it matches their personalities, I would actually like that.
But you don't want like every character can't be that though.
Yes, that's the problem.
Yeah, you can have like one.
If we're talking about literally every character, but you can have many. I mean, Joss Whedon can write that sort of thing well. But then everybody saw his good version of that, and they thought they could do it, and that's what people wanted, and they did a terrible version of it.
Yeah, that's
and so now it sucks. Happened.
Well, there's also another thing that happened here is like if you go back to like we're talking spaghetti westerns, right? You back to Clint Eastwood in Fistful of Dollars or whatever.
Sure.
Or you go back to like older movies. You have a lot of characters with one-liners, and these are badass characters who are taking down the villains.
The one-liners
and they're pulling stuff off, but they also have like good one-liners, and then that was kind of recreated in the 80s and with like a tongue-in-cheek irony to it, where you had action heroes doing really goofy one-liners. So like Highlander kind of comes to mind in that sense, where that story is way too.
Was the king of it.
Yes, yeah, but like stories that are way too serious, but there's a little bit of fun in there. It's like, okay, fine. But then like that parody of a parody came out in the 2010s, and it's just been hellish ever since.
Yes,
and that's what we've been living through right now.
Well, one-liners peaked in, as we all know, the peak of the one-liner, and it's been downhill ever since, was Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin.
The peak? I thought that was like the crash.
No, you're totally wrong. This you could be. That's the peak. Is Arnold Schwarzenegger playing Mr. Freeze in Batman and Robin? It's all been downhill from there. The one-liner it's become almost too meta at this point for a lot of people to use them well. They feel like they feel like the one-liners are for the audience more than something a character would actually say.
Yes. He could have said, "You smell like hobbit ass."
You smell like a hobbit's bum.
Oh, I guess they couldn't because they couldn't say hobbit. So, oh well.
You smell like a Harfoot's
Damn it.
Funky toe
Yeah,
jam.
exactly.
Yeah. There you go.
Oh, you know what? I think them calling them Harfoots actually might save the lore, because it was written in the original lore that no seriously it was written in the original lore that until Bilbo went on his quest, no hobbit had ever done anything of historical note ever. So, but these guys aren't hobbits; they're Harfoots. So
we don't know what she's done yet. We don't know if what she's doing is going to be of any like renown, right? It could all be a small scale story, or nobody would maybe learn of it, or no one talked about it. It depends.
Maybe, but that means that she's free to do something big now. So.
Right.
Okay. So you want to sum up the storyline? Yeah.
Well, let's talk about the Galadriel storyline.
Yes, let's move on to that. Yes.
Okay. So the main storyline, Galadriel.
You saved this one for the end.
We are at the end.
Well, we still haven't talked about
the dwarf story,
but I don't know if we don't need to really talk about it.
I think we can, but that splits off. That splits off.
Right.
So
it'll be.
But so yeah, Galadriel. I said she's her brother's killed by Sauron. She's on a quest she becomes Captain Ahab on a quest of revenge to get her white whale Sauron and kill him. She's been searching for over 100 years to find him, or hundreds of years. We don't know exactly how long. She tracks. She's like a squad of people with her. She tracks Sauron's trail to like the fucking North Pole, and they can barely find anything. And all of her men mutiny on her, and they force her to go all the way back to Elf Town. And there, the Elf Town people are like, Listen.
Hold on. So you're going too fast because you missed all the amazing girl boss.
No, we're gonna get into all those stuff like separately. I'm just giving the audience like an overview.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. She goes back to Elftown. The elf people are all like, Galadriel, you need to chill the fuck out. Sauron's either gone or dead, or don't worry about him. He's fine. She doesn't believe them. She's obsessed with revenge. Then the king has a vision. Well, he says this. We don't see it. He says he has a vision that Galadriel will accidentally basically free Sauron in her quest to destroy him. So he sends her and her army back to Valinor, across the sea, back to heaven, and says, get the fuck out of here. You did a good job. Here's your... it's like the scene in the movie where
War's over.
They want to
they
give the soldiers medals and tell them to fuck off to cover up some crime or something. So she goes on the boat. She's going to heaven. The sky is like literally fucking opening up, and she, for whatever reason, which I'm sure we'll talk about a lot.
We're skipping through so much.
I know, but we're gonna get into each individual part. Don't worry.
Sure.
She decides that she will reject heaven, and she jumps into the fucking water off the boat. Mm-hmm. The boat disappears.
Puts on her atheist fedora.
No land in sight.
I'm not going to fuck.
No land in sight for
he's like hundreds, if not thousands of miles away from any land. No one knows what the fuck her plan is. Right. And then she just decides to start swimming.
Hope you can swim.
Okay, I want to talk about the swim scene right now, though, because since we're here. Okay, so the swim scene. The ocean that they're sailing across is the size of the Atlantic.
Okay, it's a big ocean.
Right. And she's just going to swim the fuck. I mean, I guess that's the most elven that the elves have actually acted, because they would be capable of such physical feats. They do.
Well, I don't think they could swim the whole ocean, though.
Well, no.
Who knows? Maybe.
Let's assume that she has the stamina to perform this, which is horseshit. But let's assume that she does. She'll die of thirst.
Yeah, fair enough. That's true.
It's like 3 weeks of swimming or something.
Right. It'd take a long time.
Well, so, just to put it into perspective, it took about 66 days for the famous pilgrims to cross the Atlantic and land in what would become Massachusetts or wherever, Cape Cod.
Right.
So, and those were ships.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd have to be swimming. Also, sleep deprivation, that is going to kick in.
Yes.
You'll
lots of problems. Lots of problems.
I have no fucking idea
before you starve to death.
What her plan was to jump out of the ship in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and swim back to Europe. Like, what the fuck? The fuck? Okay, this was the funniest scene because it's so absurd. It's the worst scene in the first two episodes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So anyway, in the second episode, she gets picked up by there's a wreckage with a bunch of people on it. Apparently their boat was destroyed by a giant sea monster. They argue about saving her. They sort of start to save her, and then they realize she's an elf, and they throw her back in the water because they're racist, because everyone hates elves. I guess these are like the people that sided with Morgoth or something. The giant water monster shows up. It kills almost everyone except one guy who was on the raft. He cut a piece of the raft off.
Yeah.
And he escapes, and he ends up hooking up with Galadriel. He saves her. And then a bunch of stuff happens, which isn't as important. We'll talk about later. And it ends with them being saved, I think, by the Numenorians, the humans that live in some other place. Okay. Anyway, let's start back at the beginning.
We need to talk about intro sequences.
Yes.
And how to use them effectively. This is going to be focused almost entirely, basically, virtually all of this is going to have to do with Galadriel. And in order to... It does a really bad job at making us care. After we talk about the Fellowship of the Ring, right? It's under 10 minutes. It's 7-8 minutes that the opening sequence is.
Yeah.
It's not long, but it knows what to show. You get a really good grasp of the basic back information that you need. Pretty simple. They knew to show important things like the forging of the ring, Sauron being killed, Isildur dying in the river, the ring slipping to the bottom, time passing, Bilbo's involvement, really important parts, right? But I don't think that we got that in the Rings of Power. We don't see Morgoth being defeated.
Right.
We don't see Finrod, I think his name. We don't see him being killed. We don't see that.
You're right. Yeah.
We see the aftermath of a random battle with really inappropriate music over it. You're not showing me the important things. What they did do in the Fellowship of the Ring was they showed Isildur, his father, being killed by Sauron. They showed us that. Totally, really meaningless in the story, right? Isildur's going to be dead in a river in a minute anyway, right? We don't really fucking care. But for that brief moment, you see like, oh, I feel bad for him. His dad died. He picked up the broken sword. It was a small thing, a very, very tiny action, but it was very important, and they showed that. They knew to show those things to the audience, and they didn't show these really important things in the opening sequence. Instead, we see her as stony-faced as normal with a tear running down her cheek. She's sad her brother died. We never got anything of their relationship except for that one weird chat about stones and boats that makes no fucking sense whatsoever. We have not been connected to this character at all. We are not rooting for her. We're not with her. We're not behind her. She very quickly becomes super annoying and obsessive, and she's just kind of an asshole. They failed entirely on getting us behind the motivations of the main character. So that's kind of a big deal.
There's that. There's also the fact that when young Galadriel is talking to her brother, he's talking about death and darkness. And this is very early in the timeline. The elves don't know what death and darkness is yet. They won't be introduced to that until Morgoth shows up. So it's kind of an out of place conversation. Then they show that scene where they just pile up all the helmets, a bunch of elven helmets.
Surely they know what darkness is. They'll have shadows and caves.
Yeah, but in terms of like dark magic, like evil, they don't know what evil is.
Metaphorical like darkness.
Yeah, they're like a utopian society at this point. And then the battle scene where they have just all the helmets, that's something that's very un-elven. It doesn't really make much sense
that they would stack helmets. Well, that doesn't make sense for anyone to do.
Yes. Yeah, but it looks pretty though.
Yeah, it's so much of the show. If you watch the show thinking about trailer moments, the show makes more sense. Why did they do this? Why did they do that? Trailer moment. Why did she do that? Trailer moment.
Right.
Why are they talking about trailer moment?
They have that weird shot of like all the dead people underwater, but it looks like they're floating in the sky. Trailer moment, the stacking of the helmets, which looks cool, but makes literally no sense.
Yeah,
whatsoever.
it's a trailer moment. And, they showed us that instead of, they had that one sequence in battle where an elf is just like getting pushed back, and we don't really know what was happening. Why were they doing that? Was
that her brother? I couldn't tell.
Maybe, I don't know. I guess he died, but he didn't, because I don't know. They showed us things like that instead of her brother being killed, instead of Morgoth being defeated in the final battle. Those are the things we need to really kind of see, because the criticism of it's too much like the Fellowship of the Ring is far better than, we just didn't get to see very, very important events to the story that this story, relies on.
Mm-hmm.
They also did skip over like 1,000 years of history there, but I mean, the show's not really about that. No, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think your point is right on the money. They should have showed her brother fighting and then getting killed by Sauron, and Galadriel, maybe she's in the battle or maybe she sees it. I don't fucking know. But there should be some like personal element of us seeing Morgoth get defeated personally.
It would have made us sad for his death and angry at him because we watched it happen. And so that would help put us more in line with wanting her to succeed.
Exactly. Okay.
And also, she could show some goddamn emotions every once in a while. That would be neat.
Right.
She could like actually be super. There's a general lack of emotions being displayed in this show, but if your brother's dead and that's a really big motivating force for you, like you could try harder to act, or maybe that was just the direction who told her to just look like normal, and we'll just have a tear roll down your cheek. Like, you could try a little harder to convey the emotions of our protagonist if they have a largely vengeance, I suppose, as a kind of motivating force.
I think what they were trying to go for is like, she's supposed to be this elf, and this is the first time she's feeling sadness. So it's like the beauty of the elf.
Well, she was sad when her boat got hit by the rocks.
Well, that's
true. She was angry. She started to beat up the guy.
You're right. So that doesn't make any sense.
And well, that's the thing. This is part of the elves should be a superior race conversation, right? Because I don't think that's how elves should be acting. Frankly,
well, they were children, so it makes sense, right?
Now, even elvish children, based on what we know about the lore, like they're not supposed to be like that.
Well, I don't know. I don't know, but I don't really care about the lore from that perspective.
I don't.
Well, neither do they, Sitch.
Really, I mean,
neither do they.
in terms of evaluating whether it's good or not, I stay away from the, does it adhere to external lore stuff, and more of, is it internally consistent? Because of course it could be, hypothetically, this show could be a really, really damn good show that just doesn't have much to do at all with Lord of the Rings lore.
Right.
Internally, if it's really, really good, then I'll say it's really, really good. It's just a bad adaptation.
So after the intro sequence where she's on her quest for vengeance, there's a scene that Adam is very bothered by, where they're climbing a mountain, an ice mountain.
Yeah, this is a really dumb scene.
Adam,
this is a trailer scene. It's the trailer scene.
It is a trailer
Watch this show thinking about trailer scenes, trailer moments. That's why they're climbing up this sheer cliff of ice and death. Is because you'd think that they'd see the mountain from a long distance away, and they'd be like, "Oh, well, we'll go around it up the side. We'll walk up the side." It's like, nope, straight line. But it looks so cool for the trailer.
Right. Did you want to bitch about the?
Well, it's just obviously it's the first scene we see with Gadriel and her team, and she basically risks the life of her entire team by going up in front of them and knocking ice down in their faces. And it just makes me think, wow, I would have mutinied a lot sooner had I known this bitch was going to endanger my life in the first leg of the journey. So I just,
Right. So they climb the giant mountain. The elves already kind of want to quit because it's been so long. The show should have really established. They just say it's been over like 100 years. They really should have shown, I think, like a fading montage of you seeing them walk through like different environments or something to really show like it's been a very fucking long time.
The show has a lot of issues with time and space in terms of distance and traveling and just the timeline. It's very confusing. To my understanding, they search for hundreds of years for Sauron.
Yeah, she says centuries and centuries.
Yeah, so like...
But if you miss that one line, it's like, oh, this was like the day after the war ended,
In the Fellowship of the Ring, we have a lot of scenes of the gorgeous actual landscapes and traveling when it's appropriate because they are making a journey, which helps sell you the idea that they're traveling a long distance. They can't just turn around and go back. These scenes in a way are it isn't just soft world building by showing the world itself, but it's like, they're on a trip, they're on a journey. This is long. They have things like provisions. Ooh, think of Rings of Power. Imagine if you had characters traveling and you had to show they had provisions like food and animals, and they had to bring gear with them to sell the idea that they're not just hopping down the road for the afternoon, but they're actually on a centuries-long quest. I mean, make that shit look like Lewis and Clark expeditions. You gotta really sell this stuff. Visuals are important.
Well, I think part of the problem is that since they have all these different storylines happening, like they simultaneously don't have time to like really get into the depth of the world building, but then simultaneously it feels like nothing happens in each plot line.
Because they're not being efficient with their storytelling.
Yes, right.
2 hours into Fellowship of the Ring, I think we're entering into Moria, and so much has happened in Fellowship of the Ring. We've established so much, not just about the state of the world and the places, but the people involved. And after 2 hours of this, because there doesn't seem to be an efficiency in the planning of scenes or in what each scene is trying to accomplish, after 2 hours, we know virtually just
very
nothing.
little.
We have very little
interesting things anyway.
Yeah.
So they get to the top of the mountain. The elves want to mutineer, but they find out that they're actually at wherever they're supposed to be. It looks like some abandoned Sauron watch post or something. They go inside.
Well, hold on. Let's talk a little about what happens outside first, because
when the guy faints, or
So, do you recall during Fellowship of the Ring, there's the scene where they're all on the mountain, and they're trying to get through, and Sauron is down on his tower sending like lightning bolts, sending lightning bolts and collapsing all the snow.
Right.
And they're like, we got to turn back. We got to go back. And they all like, shit, the hobbits are dying. Yeah. So they turn around and go back. In this one, Galadriel's just like, fuck no, I don't care if my guys die. She didn't give a shit about any of the troops under her command.
You mentioned that this happens twice. Later on, it happens, but we'll get to that in a moment. But she doesn't have much. It goes into how much she doesn't have a personality. I can only assume that she doesn't give a fuck about any of the people underneath her command or the people around her. She is solely focused on herself and her own revenge. When she is in the cemetery grove talking to Elrond appeals to how many other elf lives are you going to put in danger with this quest? And she just dodges the question. She doesn't even talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And in fact, the show kind of presents it like she is a girl boss being held down, and those are all just men who are trying to keep her in her place.
Well, this is the weirdest part about her character, and it kind of goes to what Adam was saying about optics versus what the story is framing. It feels like when they first wrote this story, Galadriel is not supposed to be a girl boss. She is supposed to be the Captain Ahab revenge-driven character who's willing to throw everyone under the bus, essentially. And you, the audience, are not necessarily supposed to sympathize with her in that regard.
Like vengeance is bad, something like that.
But then the trailer frames her as a girl boss, and there's a couple lines in the show that frame her as a girl boss. So it's almost like once they wrote the first draft of the script, someone was like, no, it's 2022. She has to be a girl boss. What are you doing?
I don't think that the read of the show is in any way pointing us to the fact that she's doing anything wrong.
I completely disagree with you.
Oh, really?
Yes.
No, I think that the show is 100%
behind They blatantly say that she's going to release Sauron. I mean, how can you say that?
No, because that is a claim being made by another character that we don't know if it's true or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, this could turn into like
it has a lot of credibility when he picks up the leaf and looks at the fucking
the corruption,
the black goo.
That could be the case.
It has a lot of credibility when she jumps out of the boat.
Because right as she jumps out of the boat is when the leaf falls.
Yeah.
No, it's when the meteor. It's when the meteor hits.
They all happen at the same time, at least on the show.
Yeah.
We don't know
I think it's the meteor is supposed to be what we're supposed to draw a connection between the meteor, because that's when he notices. That's when the elf guy notices.
Yeah, all the events happen simultaneously. But
hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, here's why I disagree. Here's why I think it is part of the show is because almost every scene, and this is where the girl boss thing kind of gets muddled by it. In every scene where she's talking to an elf, they're like, hey, Galadriel, you're going to like fuck everything up and you're driven by revenge and anger and you should not do that.
Yes.
Like that's every scene almost that she's talking to someone. But the problem is because she's a woman and everyone who's telling her this is a man and it's 2022, you're like, I'm not sure if it's supposed to be. Yeah, like, are they right or are they wrong? I don't know.
I think we see this all the time where you have a character you have the character that the authors are trying to present as correct, and then they accidentally fuck up with their bad writing and have someone give a legitimately really good argument against them, but they won't address it.
Rags, how does this end? Does she free Sauron? Does she somehow provoke Sauron to the point where he invades his Ukrainian neighbors?
I don't think that it's hard to say because this film. That's a film.
I mean, that's where they're pointed. I mean, that's
here. Let me explain.
That's where the whole show is pointed.
I legit don't. The show doesn't come across as very woke to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
It comes across as classic bad. Remember when movies were just bad?
Hold on. There's 4 storylines, and 3 of them are like so. The social justice themes are so popping out at you. How can you say that it's not woke? I mean, they have literally like a interracial forbidden love storyline.
The surface. I think this was one. There's surface level wokeness that you're talking about, Adam, but like thematically, it's not woke.
I agree. I agree. But
I think the wokeness is it's just totally surface level. I don't think there's really much in terms of like I said, I think this is
virtue signal level. Is that what you're saying?
No. I think it's just bad characters and a bad plot. I really don't think that the political angle has anything to do with the stories. I just think it's a lack of talent in writing characters and plots. They're trying to juggle too much, and they're not spending their scenes wisely. You like the little moments are here and there. Like, I think that that Renwyn could kill the orc in her house. Is like, not the way they portrayed it. No. Do I think that they should have Galadriel taking a troll one-on-one and effortlessly killing it? Like, no, they shouldn't have done that at all. But I think that's really as far as it goes so far.
It's also the woman beheading the orc and showing all the men.
That was the first example that I gave.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, her story seems to be identical to Galadriel's, where it's like, girl's correct, nobody believes that she's blowing the whistle, and then she comes back with.
Yeah, she seems to be justified though. Galadriel doesn't seem to be justified.
Yeah. So there is two ways this could go, right? Because there's the way where, over the course of the season, everyone's telling Galadriel to cool it because she's going to destroy everything, and she's like, I'm a girl boss, fuck you, and then she actually destroys everything, and there's this whole like repentance arc that she has to go through. That could be a decent story. That could be a decent story. But it also could just be
it could be traumatic for young ladies.
I don't think they'll do it. I wouldn't be shocked if they did, but I don't think they're going to. I think they're going to have her be the I think she's going to be right all along, and she's virtuous in what she's trying to do.
She's going to girl boss it. She's going to girl boss it right at.
I know it's way less interesting.
She's going to girl boss it right at the end. She's almost going to let Sauron out, and then totally girl boss it. Sauron locked up for a century.
Right.
See, I think they're going to do that.
And then all the men that told her what she was doing was dangerous are going to be proven wrong. It's going to be the ultimate social justice ending.
I think if that happens, I will be convinced that was not in the original draft, and I added that. That's what I think will happen.
Here's the thing. That's basically what they're doing in She-Hulk right now, where in that first episode where she was just right about everything.
Yeah.
Yes, it's basically the social justice.
She-Hulk is
school
different
for writing.
Right. She-Hulk is different because She-Hulk isn't just woke on a surface level, like Rings of Power. She-Hulk is woke on every level of story that it possibly could exist. Yeah. It's completely ingrained in the story.
So there's basically two ways to do the story, because you have the one where she's a girl boss, she's held back, and she was right all along, and so the conflict is her overcoming the people on her own side who doubt her.
Right.
And you can have some conflict there, but it's kind of a very it's a very like tired story at this point. And also, people making it nowadays aren't really doing it very well. And then the second story is where she was wrong, and she gets absolutely fucking obliterated by her own ego, and she has to come back and rebuild things in a humble way. And that's the much more interesting story.
Mm-hmm. No, well, this is why I think at least they could have changed it for wokeness, but at least in the original draft, I'm convinced that she's wrong and that she releases Sauron, because they have that scene where she's looking at all the statues of all of the elves that died in the war, and she's talking to Elrond, and she's like, I always pictured I would end up here.
Yeah. So
she's basically on a suicidal mission. She kind of has survivor's guilt. And the reason they had the thing with the boat, for stupid as it was, both where she's on the boat to heaven and also the boat thing in the beginning of the episode, is that, and this is why I think that it's supposed to be that she's wrong. In the beginning of the episode, there's a scene where she makes a little paper boat, and it's in the water, and a bunch of asshole elf kids like throw rocks at it, and they sink the boat. And then, she beats the kid up, and then she talks to her brother, and her brother's like, do you know why boats float and rocks sink?
Mm-hmm.
Boats float because they look up towards the sky and the light, and rocks sink because they look down towards the darkness. And then she asks her brother, how do you know sometimes the light reflects off the ocean? How do you know, which light to follow? And he says, sometimes you have to taste or touch the darkness first to, be able to differentiate.
Yep.
And so when she's on a physical boat later in the episode, they're obviously drawing inference to that scene. She literally she hears her brother's voice whispering these words to her while she's on the boat towards heaven.
So the whole point of that analogy that's virtually not related at all to anything
is just for this one scene.
Just for this one scene.
Right.
That's why
one for one. It's like so obvious. They're slapping you in the face with this.
Well, we don't know how far she's going to go to touch the darkness yet. I mean,
it's still the setup for that scene. The whole of the relationship between her and her brother was to set up a nonsensical analogy for an event that will have her jump off a boat.
Yes,
and that's the end of it.
Hold on a second here, but the deeper message of going to the dark side, I don't think we fully explored in the first 2 episodes.
No, we haven't.
I think, well, it's either that or, because remember, I think the writing is bad. I think the writers who are doing this are bad. I think
the writers who are doing this are terrible. So, I mean...
Oh, yeah, they're definitely not talented.
Abhorrent.
But I think that the darkness is almost... Because when I was watching this through, I thought it was really weird that they kind of portray the Undying Lands as a negative place that you don't want to be.
I didn't get that interpretation at all.
I absolutely did. Just because when you have Galadriel, and where she's like our point of view character of a sense, it is a negative thing for her to go there. She doesn't want to go there. With the lighting and the way that they depict the imagery of it as they're on the boat getting closer, I think they portray it in almost like a cult-like way. You don't want to actually go there. It's a false promise.
Right.
You need to come back to the real world.
So you think they get past heaven and the pearly gates and it's just a nightmare in there? They've actually been tricked into going.
Or it's just like being brainwashed. You know, you lose your.
It's like The Island with Ewan McGregor.
Oh yeah, right?
Well,
they're pushing her in a Breaking Bad direction, Rags. You don't?
That's what I think. Yeah.
You don't think that's what's happening here?
I
mean that they did a lot to set up that touch the darkness thing, and it kind of made me think.
They actually had they had one strange conversation about it. The conversations that she has with other people and the conversations in general that are had can be interpreted in multiple ways, but not in a good way. They're confusing and they don't have resolutions.
Right.
Characters don't talk like they're two characters talking.
Is episode 3 going to be more Breaking Bad direction?
In what sense do you mean?
Well, they've said Galadriel going to be doing like bad shit, basically.
I don't know. I don't think so. I wouldn't be shocked if they went that route, but if I was to guess, I don't think that they will have any. I don't think they'll have that.
Okay.
Well. First of all, I mean, you had the baptism imagery, like they're shedding their armor and they're wearing those like baptism white robes.
Yeah.
So that's probably what's you're like that's where you get kind of that culty sense, but. If we think about it in terms of the first scene about the metaphor for the boat and the rock, like she's literally on a boat that's heading towards light.
Yeah.
And instead she rejects the light, which is what her brother told her to do.
It's not the real light. You're going to heaven isn't the real light.
Well, I disagree. I think she rejects the light and she jumps into the water.
Into the darkness. That
I think the show is. I
disagree that's what I think the message is, but
she
jumps into the water, which represents the darkness. And that's why they have that shot where, like, once the boat disappears, she's just all alone in this giant darkened ocean.
Yeah.
So that she went the direction of the rock.
Yeah. And she's going to touch the darkness.
Right.
She's really going to touch it. Hey, Sitch, did you catch the fireworks reflected in the water, too? They keep hitting you with that imagery. Like,
I didn't catch that, no.
Yeah. The lights reflecting off the water. That's like a big theme. Yeah. I don't know if they're going to. They're definitely going to push in the Breaking Bad direction. I just don't know if they're going to like bungle it by. There's 6 episodes, right? Like if
I think there's 10 this season.
Oh, okay.
I think there's 6, but
let me look it up.
Yeah, look it up. It could be like she could end up as like a statue in the. Oh, I guess she couldn't because this is like a prequel, right? She
there's
can't actually
8 episodes. Yeah, she can't die.
There's 8.
No stakes.
Damn it. Yeah, I was like, I want to see her as like a tree in the garden and Sauron just like ripping through the land as she's
they want to make more than one season, so I don't think this is going to resolve at the end of it.
They've purchased 5 seasons already.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Yeah.
Yep. And they've spent $1 billion on it.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge investment for them.
They've spent $1 billion, and they've come out and said that if this show flops, then Amazon's pulling out of the streaming show making business.
Oof.
This is like high stakes. This is high stakes.
Right.
Very high stakes.
Very high stakes.
But yeah, to go back, we were talking about the Elsa's Palace bit where they get to that point. Because we
Palace.
Are we moving on to the elf story? Are we done with Gadriel?
That's what we were.
No, we haven't.
Not even close.
We're on it. That's what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they go into the Ice Palace, and they're still like, we have to turn back. And then
now remember, this is the Ice Palace that is so evil that torches put out no warmth.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It's very evil.
They still put out light.
They still put out light, true. And I assume that their bodies put out heat, so their blood doesn't freeze in their veins. It's just fire specifically.
Yeah.
The torches
How that makes any
put out
sense,
heat.
but whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
They discovered cold fusion. Okay.
Okay.
It's just really evil plays. It's an evil magic.
So there's just like a bunch of dumb things. Like first of all, she punches through an ice wall, and elves are stronger than humans, but not that strong.
To be fair, she sees her own reflection in the ice and then she punches it, which is the correct reaction.
It's the correct reaction.
Also,
well, there you go.
to
But
all
there's
of
some
you
more
at home,
symbolism
don't
for
punch
you.
ice. Ice is hard as a rock. Don't punch ice, please.
Mhm.
Don't do that. But yeah, it's one of those little things where the writers have an issue. The issue is, how does she find the secret spooky torture room? Oh, she'll see her reflection in the ice and then punch it, and it opens up a passageway. And there's like, well, all right, that's what's going to be in the show. Next scene.
Well, doesn't she say like it's colder in this direction or something?
No, as far as I know, she doesn't say anything. She just notices her reflection in the ice, punches it twice.
I thought she said something about the doorway. This was a
once she punches
doorway.
it open, she says the door was
gotcha.
yeah. But see,
she
I think
it open and it reveals the hole in the wall. And then
I'm glad you pointed out because I forgot about that. She's punching her own reflection. To me, that just solidifies. That's another piece of evidence for that she's going to be wrong. It's like she can't deal with herself. She's literally punching herself.
The symbolism.
Yes. But
so they go in, they find the
ice troll.
They find Sauron's marking or something.
I think the ice troll is there first.
Or the ice troll is there. This is the second worst scene, in my opinion.
No, the troll is after the spooky room.
This is the major girl.
They do the spooky room, and then one of the random elves finds the troll.
Right. There's a spooky room. Oh, that's right. There's a spooky room with like a orc stuck in a wall.
They were doing bad magic.
Yeah, we're like, what the fuck's happening here?
Yeah.
Not bad interior design, specifically bad magic. That wasn't
right. No explanation. It's a scene they literally stole from Bright, which I thought was bizarre, but okay. Then there's Sauron's marking. You don't know what that means.
She watches a random snowflake. The snowflake falls onto the anvil rock thingy, and then it goes
sizzles.
And it sizzles. I don't know why she knew that snowflake in particular would make it sizzle. I imagine every snowflake should be making it do that, but it's one of those little details that just makes you wonder, why did you do it like this? This doesn't make a lot of sense how you portrayed it, but they did it
perception
anyway.
is just so good.
She knew that snowflake was up to no good.
Right.
She counts snowflakes individually as they fall down in front of her, just just to pass the time.
There's like a larger, more meta conversation as to why that is the way that it is, Drags, and it's basically
what is the way it is.
Why they have what on the outside looks like a really interesting scene. You have like the snowflake coming down and then touching the thing and then sizzling. It's like, oh, that's actually a pretty cool visual. But if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. But
what do you mean? Why if the anvil was warm, wouldn't that be what snowflakes do?
Well, yes, but the point is that it's not warm because nothing's warm in this place.
How is it warm?
Nothing's warm in this place.
how is Sauron's mark like hot when his energy sucks the heat away from fire?
Well, so all they say is like there's like the place is so friggin' evil that our torches put out no warmth. But his special ritual rock. Well, I'm with it if it's consistent, right? If you want to have a place that's so evil, torches don't put out warmth. Okay, that is pretty evil, I suppose, Edgehog. But be consistent with it, right? But in the anvil is warm because I guess that's a special magic rock, not to be confused with the general aura of spookiness that encompasses this fortress. It's two different things.
Well, it's an anvil. You got to use it to like hit swords.
It might not be an anvil. I just thought it was one. Like this was a black. I don't know. It
was an altar or something.
An altar or something.
Yeah.
But there's the scene about there's a symbol. Right, and it's his symbol, and she thinks, "Oh, the symbol it's a trail for them to follow," which, as far as I'm concerned, is something she just made up.
Yeah, follow where? What does that even mean? Yeah,
because she says that the last time I saw it was on my brother's body. Was that a symbol to follow? I assume
he's just leaving a trail of corpses.
But now she found this symbol, and then she says, "Oh, this is a symbol for orcs and stuff to follow." I'm like, hold on. If this is the fortress where they gathered before his defeat, shouldn't his symbol be everywhere anyway? Because this is like his HQ. Why is this? And also, what is it? It's not a direction. It's just a symbol. It's not pointing anywhere. Like it's not direction. It's just a symbol. Where are you supposed to go after this? Right. It's just a symbol on a rock.
Well, yeah,
how is this a path to follow?
Yeah, isn't it? I mean, it'd be more. It would make more sense to say like, oh, Sauron was here. That's his sigil. Like there you go. You're on the trail, but we don't know if you. But even that wouldn't work
because they know that Sauron was here. That's why they came here, because they knew that this was his fortress that they gathered at for his defeat.
I thought he lived there.
So it's like it's kind of like they are following Sauron's trail, but it's not like the trail is there so that they can follow it. If that makes sense.
The writing issue is you need to have Galadriel believe that there is a pathway that leads
Jesus
to
Christ,
Sauron.
Rags, are you getting swatted?
That's actually not me.
That's me.
Else.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I hope I'm not getting swatted, but you know.
But
everyone's getting swatted nowadays. Jesus.
The requirement that the writers need is that Galadriel has to believe, for whatever reason, that there is a pathway, a credible pathway that will lead to Sauron, right? But it has to. But it also has to be something that everyone else doubts. And so she just randomly makes up that this symbol is a pathway to Sauron instead of actually developing something that might be like that. Like, why would you see this symbol on this altar and think that this is part of a pathway for random orcs to follow in order to get to Sauron? It doesn't make sense. She just makes that up.
They needed like a story point where she's correct and she's on the right trail, and if they just keep going, they'll accomplish their mission. But all of her men mutiny and say no, we're going.
Yeah, like they find some pieces of armor or a footprint, or it's something like a trail. Like orcs have been through here, or something else. They should have done something else.
From Sauron's ex-wife saying where he hangs out on Wednesday nights.
He hangs out with all his orcs and not me anymore.
Yeah, so that would have been good.
There's the second worst scene in the entire series, which is that the snow troll comes out. Which, first of all, the snow troll looks very cool. I think it looks very visually cool, which is upsetting that they fuck it up. And
listen, Sitch, many visual effects artists died to bring us this show.
Right. Well, actually, for the most part, the show looks very visually great, which is kind of like, they wasted so much good visuals on this terrible story. But the snow troll comes out, and then this is like right in the beginning of the episode, and this really struck me the wrong way, is that, whenever we've seen elves in Lord of the Rings and in The Hobbit, all these things fight, like all the elves are generally shown to be pretty badass fighters. Like we haven't really seen any shitty elves fight yet.
Yeah, I have to go back and look at Haldir's men and at Helm's Deep, but I think for the most part, when
these elves
are around,
yes. And so the troll comes out. So wait, the troll comes out, and I couldn't believe this. Literally every elf just stands there and like goes, "Oh, it's a snow troll," and the snow troll just punches the crap out of all these.
They run up to it with like they run up to it so that it can punch them.
Yes, they run up to it with their swords drawn, and they just kind of like stop in front of it, and then it punches them, and you're like, "What the fuck?" And none of the elves do anything, except one elf puts his sword on the floor or like at an angle, and Galadriel jumps on top of it, and he launches her with the sword in like the dumbest fucking shot ever.
And she cut her foot off.
Yes, she leaps into the air and like slashes the troll high, and then she single-handedly cuts the troll a bunch of times and kills it all by herself.
Yes,
no one helps.
One-mans it.
It's so
she solos the troll.
It's so stupid.
It's so stupid, and it was so pointless.
Fight scene.
Like I was like, okay, I get it. She's a badass, but you don't need to make every elf just like. All the elves could have helped, and she could have killed it in some cool way or something.
It's not the elves that she makes look bad. It's our fellowship in Moria that she makes look bad.
Oh, because it took them so... Well, wasn't the troll in Moria... Wasn't it bigger?
Cave troll?
It seemed way bigger.
They were both pretty big, but just even then, even if there's somewhat of a power discrepancy, right? It took the fellowship and all of their...
A lot, yes.
It took, like, it was a boss fight for the fellowship to kill that troll.
Right.
I recently rewatched all three of the Lord of the Rings, the originals. I saw Helm's Deep maybe 3 or 4 days ago, and none of the elves were as incompetent as Galadriel's men,
right?
At all in any of the movies.
Even the hobbits were more competent than those guys. Jeez.
Yeah.
To be a little fair, though, I think the troll was bigger, and it was also like hundreds of orcs and goblins at the same time. It wasn't just a troll by itself.
Even them, I'm just referring to really them fighting the troll.
Right.
Each of them almost like does a different thing. Gimli hits the legs a bit.
Yes.
Some of the others shoot arrows, and Legolas dodges the chain and then is able to get on top of it. Then you have the whole scene where Frodo almost gets killed.
Right.
Even when just the troll thing, like, this is a big deal. It's like a boss fight.
Yes.
And so then when Gandalf says something even bigger is coming, we gotta
like, oh fuck.
Sitch, story wise, I'm totally mystified by the troll thing, because normally you want your character, to work up to being a badass. Like, just character wise, it seems odd that she like dispatches this troll so easily, because if the fight went completely differently and they all barely got out of there with their lives, it would mean so much more that she continues the fight towards Sauron, even though there is great danger in the way. Like, this completely undermines her character development at all. I feel like, okay, she's invincible, she can jump in the ocean and swim 1,000 miles.
The plot is actively
here's the thing,
inspiring with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in every single female character nowadays is just Rey Skywalker.
Well, I know, and this is why wokeness is the problem, because like, if half her men are killed and she's like more, wounded significantly, and walks out of there and still wants to go ahead, that's way more meaningful than, I killed everybody, you guys are just scared pieces of shit and want to go home.
Yes. So you can have like a weak character grow to become strong. That's like a fun, like Rocky style story, right? Or then you can have a strong character who becomes weak and they have to climb back up. And that can be a pretty fun story too. And I think you can even have a decent story where weak characters remain weak, because you can do something there. But a strong character who is just strong and correct all the time, it's not fun. It's not interesting to watch.
No,
it's just okay.
Well, there's no stakes. It completely takes the stakes out of her storyline.
Right. Yeah, the troll scene was just there. We were talking about this, I think, privately, about how when you're writing, especially if you're writing something that's like very expansive like this, every scene should accomplish like many things at once.
Totally, yes.
And if they had the scene where the troll comes out, maybe there's even more than one troll comes out, and like the elves all work together and they barely kill it, they barely escape, and they like get injured and fucked up, and she still wants to press on. That tells you so much more about her character and why the people are mutinying, and showing like kind of where her mind space is. And it also raises the stakes to show how much danger they're in. But the scene, like literally the only point in the scene is to show that Galadriel is a badass.
Right.
That's the only point in the scene. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. It's so worthless.
Yeah. So Sitch, this is something I put into my Kenobi video. Mm-hmm. I dug up this interview of the guy who directed Rogue One, Star Wars Rogue One.
Right.
And he said that the way he likes to write his movies is he thinks of a bunch of cool scenes that would be really interesting for people to watch on the big screen. Yeah. And then he just forced the plot to fit all of those scenes.
Right.
Which is the worst way you could write an actual coherent narrative. And if you look back on all of the cool scenes,
that could work. If you're a talented writer, could absolutely make that work.
Well, it depends if you're using the scenes for like a setting, or if you're actually using them for story points.
Right. Well,
not advisable.
If you're just using it for like to make it look cool. So for example, last season, Game of Thrones, you had that actually really visually compelling scene of the Dothraki riding out with all their flaming swords and all the fires going out in the dark. And if you listen to the director's commentary of that episode, they're like, we had a good idea for a really cool scene. And I think that's the way that creatives who are in Hollywood nowadays, they think this way. They think cool scenes first, and the actual quality and consistency of the narrative comes second. Well, and we see this across everything coming out right now. And it's gotten to the point where like now that I've been burned by cool scenes over the past, let's say, 6 or 7 years, now I'm just like, it's like you put on the glasses and They Live, and you can like see, or you take them off, or you can like see the reality, and you're like, right. I know what they're doing here. There's actually nothing in the plot will be put forward by the ice troll. It's just to make Galadriel look good. That's all.
It's a set piece.
Right. Yeah, it's a set piece, yes.
And that's where the political aspect of the show kind of comes back into it, is as soon as you take out what possible character or plot motivations this scene could have, you remove that, and then you have, well, let's make Galadriel look good. Well, why are they doing that? And that's where the politics conversation is.
Right. Well, I think the Game of Thrones is the clearest example of that. Because, I mean, the way that I look at it is that generally when it comes to film and TV show, directors have one of two things. They have writer brain, or they have cinematographer brain.
Yeah.
Now, writer brain is like, okay, I'm thinking about like character and story and themes and like how all these things interweave, and relationships and how all these things kind of weave together. And then the cinematographer brain is like, I want to make things look as pretty and cool as possible.
Right. Yeah.
And all the story stuff and all the writing stuff comes secondary. And it became very clear that once D&D ran out of material, that they are cinematography brained, which is fine if you have good writing and good material to work on. But if you don't, and you have to create the writing material yourself, it fails because you're just not thinking in that headspace. You don't have that writing brain headspace. And so that's how you get the Dothraki running into the thing and all dying, even though the next episode she has all the Dothraki back.
Mission Impossible Fallout, I believe, was like that, where they had all their things that they wanted to have, and then they wrote the story and the narrative to put them in those places. And that is an excellently written movie.
Yeah, you can definitely do that if you have a talented writer.
You've got to have the talent. You've got to have the time. You got to work on the script, which it doesn't seem like people do anymore. The story of the storytelling seems to get less attention than anything else.
Right.
You know, here I'll reveal my normie weeb credentials and say that Attack on Titan has done this incredibly in the 4th season. Every scene in that show tells us something about a story or a character. It pushes something forward. It establishes something. There's a lot of cool scenes, a lot of amazing fights, but everything has something to say. And I just can't say that about anything else I've watched recently.
Right. Well, I want to say, and I want to be clear, I'm not saying that being cinematography brained is bad, because you need a balance. If you're purely writer brain, your story's gonna suck too, right?
But just don't let him anywhere near the script.
Right. You need to have, like, a good director needs to have a good balanced cinematography / writer brain kind of when approaching a project. So.
Actually, here I'll give you an example of what you're talking about, Sitch, in this very series. So, as far as I can recall, the book of Fellowship of the Ring, didn't it just basically end after they got to Galadriel's place? I think it just ended there.
I don't.
Like you won. It's the end.
I'd have to double check. It's been ages since.
And then,
well, actually, I can check.
No, Gandalf. They have they go to Moria in the first book, don't they?
No. Galadriel's is after Moria.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. So
how the movie ends?
The movie ends. They go
Boromir dying and
Boromir dying, and like, that's actually a decent end for a movie. Is the final fight where the Fellowship splits up and Boromir dies. He fails and he dies, and then that's a good movie end. But that was the beginning of Two Towers.
Right.
In the
it looks like Two Towers in the book begins with, let's see, the departure of Boromir.
You're right.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, wait. When you say departure, you mean like they're putting his body somewhere, or is he still alive?
Let's see. I think I'd have to read just a second.
Okay, don't worry about it. It ends after Boromir dying, someone in the chat says.
Let me just look this up.
They're saying no, they're saying it the book ends where the movie ends.
I do not think it does. In fact, I recall this being kind of a big deal.
The only like ending I remember being different is that in the second book, I'm pretty sure the second book ends when you think Frodo dies, when he gets stabbed by Shelob.
Boromir is alive at the beginning of the Two Towers.
Oh,
he basically dies in the first page.
So you're right, Dev.
Okay. So that climactic fight, which makes for a great climax of a movie,
right?
That wasn't the climax of the first book. The first book just kind of ended. And so if you're just a pure writer, you might not be able to get those action peaks and valleys that movies need, but it might work in a novel, you know?
Sure, maybe. Yeah.
I think it depends on your presentation. Certainly as they presented it in the Peter Jackson movies, it works excellently.
Yes.
Because they're really darn close where the books swap.
Right.
Because like literally Boromir dies in the second page. Yes, the second page he fucking dies.
Right. And they couldn't really end, even though it would be better to end the second movie with Frodo, dying, quote unquote dying. I don't think it was possible just the way they kind of structured the timing of the last movie. So that's probably why they couldn't do that. But okay, so wait. So Galadriel, they leave the ice place. Everyone mutinies, all her troops mutiny. She's forced to return home. I don't know if we have anything else to say about that.
I don't think so. I do want to point out really quick. Since you said this would be 4 to 6, and we're at 6, I can give you a bit more time.
You can leave whenever you want to leave.
No. I got like another hour left in me, if that's okay.
All right.
Yeah, I should go to it like in about an hour.
Yeah, okay.
Are we gonna go another hour max? Are we gonna go super chats tomorrow then, or? I feel like we could read super chats that are for this stream because a lot of them are seriously on topic for.
Yeah, we'll definitely read ones that are on topic. Do you want me to do that right now?
We can. Sure.
We're getting pretty close to the end of the analysis, so let's kind of get through it.
Okay.
And then we'll do supers. Yeah.
Well, what else? What else you want to say?
Well, we're going. She leaves the ice palace. She's forced back home, and this is, I think, when we're introduced to Elrond.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's basically
writing in his diary.
He's writing a poem, isn't he? Like writing a poem or something in a nice, beautiful forest. So
he's writing the speech that
that's right,
guy
the speech.
will give to the others.
Galadriel. Yeah. Right. So you have the immediate contrast of Elrond is kind of like lazy and weak because he's writing in a nice forest, and Galadriel is a badass killing trolls in an icy wasteland.
Yeah.
I didn't view him as lazy and weak. I viewed him as like a young scholar rather than like a battle-hardened veteran. Which, by the way, this isn't the personalities of either of these characters. But here we are. Like I will say this: Elrond isn't Elrond, but for what he is, he at least has a character.
Right.
And I can kind of appreciate that.
I like his character. I mean, he's nothing like. Well, first of all, it's hard to say he's nothing like Elrond in the Lord of the Rings because that's like 1,000 years later or something. So
I think it's like several thousand, like almost 5, I think. Yeah.
But I mean, I do like his character. He seems like a pretty pragmatic guy. He's pretty easygoing. Seems like a pretty chill dude. Would be friends with Elrond. 10/10.
He seems fine. Yeah. I can't assign much of a personality to him, but he's fine. He's like most of the characters where I was like, I don't dislike you. I just don't know what it is that I'm supposed to latch on to.
Here's what you latch on to, Rags. He's gay.
Really?
Wait, what do you mean?
That can't be true.
You haven't heard about that?
No. Isn't he
okay?
Married or something?
Hop on google.com and search Elrond is gay, and you'll discover a bunch of articles published within the past week of people saying that this is the next phase of representation in this show is Elrond's going to be revealed as gay.
I don't like that the second search result
that's not true because he likes Galadriel a lot. Allegedly.
Yeah, I kind of thought he wanted to bang her.
He also has a daughter in the original trilogy, but no, he's gay apparently.
Oh, he's shitty at being gay.
They're gonna do something weird with him sexually. That's what everyone's saying right now. Those are the leaks from the show.
That's strange.
Okay. I don't know. I thought it seemed like he was into Galadriel.
Well, yeah, but now that he can't get the Galadisi, he's gonna go hump some sweet elf boy.
No, he's gonna get some dwarven, some dwussy.
Some dwussy. Dwussy must be fucking foul. Can you imagine just like having to before you dive down there?
A lot of hair down there.
I'm telling you, Durin and when they say that female dwarves do have beards, well, they're not wrong.
They're not just talking about the female dwarves.
They're not wrong.
Their periods are just gravel.
It's just sand.
But so I don't know. Okay, I don't know if he's gonna be. If he, well, that would make him bisexual. Wouldn't make him gay.
It would.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Unless he just totally, he's like, no, like I used to be into that, but now I'm not into that.
Right.
Well, over 1,000 years, maybe your tastes change. Yeah, it's normal.
I don't mind Elrond. I mean, obviously he doesn't look anything like the Galadriel lady looks sort of like young Galadriel.
Yeah, I can believe that she grows up into.
Yeah, he does not look anything like Agent Smith at all.
Well, a lot of the elves don't look like elves. They just look like dudes with pointy ears. They don't look like elves.
Yeah.
That's
what I was saying earlier.
Don't look like elves.
Well, and this is just
like
me.
Gas station managers and like just like people from Office Space with pointy ears.
Right. That's a good point. Like this is just me because I really played the shit out of the Shadow of Mordor games. I really didn't like the way they made Celebrimbor look. He just looks like almost like a hobbit. I was just like, what? This is not what I want Celebrimbor to look like.
I said to Mahler and Fringy that he looks like a Doctor Who, but I don't know which one.
He does. Yes, you're right. He does look like the Doctor Who.
I couldn't point to one that he looks like, but he looks like a Doctor Who. He looks like the Doctor Who they haven't cast yet.
Yes, right. Was there anything else? I don't know what else I wanted to say except so there were some people are speculating that the guy in the boat with Galadriel is potentially Sauron.
If that is the case, what an insane contrivance, Batman.
Yes. She's searching for this guy for all across the globe, and then she accidentally finds him in a boat wreck. Yes.
She bumps into him randomly in the ocean. Are you fucking with me?
Unless
he
is looking for her for some reason specifically.
He knows.
Yeah, because this could be like him planning this.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
and if he planned
could be doing
shit, like I still would probably have an issue with that. It's like
well, how would he know she would jump off the boat before it got to
Well, maybe he was following to make sure she was going.
But yeah, like it could be some Death Note style, like 12D underwater chess, literally underwater.
They're gonna have to pull out a story. They do not possess the writing talent necessary to make me not bitch about however that resolves.
Yeah. And also, it wasn't Sauron's strength wasn't like his keen intellect, was it? I don't think so.
Well, he was a trickster. I guess. I mean, I don't know. I think of manipulators and tricksters as usually being intelligent, right?
I guess, yeah, but I thought like, his whole thing was always like raw power.
Okay. Well, no, because he appears to the elves as like a deceiver. Like he tricks them into helping him make the ring and all this other stuff. So he's supposed to be like a manipulator. So I can buy that he's smart, but he's also supposed to be like very beautiful looking, which obviously the guy on the raft does not look very beautiful.
Well, I mean, he looks pretty good.
Hold on.
He looks pretty good.
If he's smart, he's really fucking stupid when it comes to some of his behaviors in the original trilogy then.
Well, he's just a giant eye, okay? What do you want from him? Yeah, he's lost his boyish
if you're a giant eye and you have to tell orcs to do your bidding and then it gets filtered through orc brains, like obviously that's not going to translate one for one with what you want to happen.
Yeah. Oh, there was one thing I want to say was I was trying to there's ways that they could have fixed the boat scene, which is the dumbest part. Now the obvious
scene are you talking
that when
about?
she jumps into the water, So the obvious thing, which would be the safest thing, would have been, the boat just has like a little, dinghy boat, like a little lifeboat. She just jumps into that, right?
She shouldn't have gone. I feel like she shouldn't have gone. And the imagery that you play is she's looking out at the ocean at night and she sees the moon in the sky and the reflection of the moon on the water. And then she decides not to go across. They don't, that's what you do.
Yeah.
You don't have her swimming across the fucking ocean and randomly being picked up in the middle of the ocean by just, no, don't do it. Just don't have a scene.
There's something. So what is Galadriel's position right now? Okay, in Elven society, everyone in Middle Earth thinks she's gone. Everyone back home knows that she didn't arrive, but they can't really easily communicate.
Right.
So Galadriel's basically on her own. They needed a way to isolate from her. Let's assume that this guy on the raft.
Well, if she ran away, if she ran away from everyone in my scenario, then the elves wouldn't take kindly to that because she's disobeying orders and everything. So she couldn't get their assistance.
Well, no, but they might go after her. Basically, there needs to be a scenario. I think if we're assuming that the guy on the yes. So if we're assuming the guy on the raft is Sauron, and she's stuck on the raft with him, there's going to be some kind of
why are you assuming this? Where does this come from?
That's just what people are saying.
People are saying
people are suggesting
that
so this
the
is
actor was cast as Sauron.
Internet rumors.
Right.
Yeah.
Nothing in the story would lead you to believe that it's Sauron, because that would be ridiculous.
No,
he's acting very not Sauron-like, but then again, the
he's
show
deceiver,
is
That's what
following
Sauron would act like
so.
to get you to.
Right.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Well,
Perfect cover.
So part of isolating Galadriel and Sauron to have that manipulator scene that they're probably building towards, if this is the case, is you'd basically need to sever all the ties that Galadriel has with other characters, such that they don't think anything's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So if Galadriel runs away and doesn't board the ship, they're going to go out looking for her, I think. But if like all the elves in Middle Earth think that just Galadriel's gone and it's fine, they have no reason to go looking for her in the ocean. So she's actually isolated right now, and that's kind of what you need. But this was a terrible way to do that. You could have done it other ways.
Absolutely, yeah. It would be more believable to me if she runs off, goes AWOL, and everyone's like, "Yo, where's Galadriel? We should send a search party." And the other one's like, "No, we have to do this, this, and this because this fucking town over here just got massacred."
Right. Well, yeah, I think you're right, Dev. And also, the second point is that if she was picked up by the men of Numenor or whatever, obviously, I assume they're going to take her and the guy to the Numenor Islands,
is what we'll call them,
or and so they want to get her with those people because there's going to be some plot line with that. And I think in the lore, doesn't Sauron go to the Numenor men and trick them into doing something? If I recall correctly, I don't know. But anyway, there are two other ways I think they could have done that scene that would have been a lot better. One, which would be very dark, which is that Galadriel cannot live with the guilt of the fact that she was not able to avenge her brother, and thus doesn't think she deserves to enter heaven, and chooses instead to basically kill herself because she doesn't think she's worthy of heaven. So when she jumps in the water, it's not to go on a revenge mission, it's just to die, essentially.
Yeah, that would have been way better.
Which would have been, I think, pretty interesting. Or the third way, which would have been less dark.
I don't think she would have killed herself. I'd have a really tough time believing that she'd kill herself.
Well, obviously the way they do it, right? I'm saying they could have done it that way. Like she just can't. She just doesn't think she's worthy. She just can't bear it.
They could have fixed it with just a couple lines. She could have said that as she dove off the boat.
Or she could have just said that when they talked about her going there in the first place. She could have just kept saying like, I'm not worthy to go there.
Yeah,
we're gonna have to do some. We're gonna have to go back further and set it up.
You know what? They didn't even need to change any lines. All they had to do is show her jumping into the water, show the boat disappearing, and then rather than show her swim, just show her floating there and not moving.
She just gives up. Yeah, right.
Yeah, you could do it like that.
Yeah, or the third way, which would be a little bit safer, which would accomplish what the show wanted to accomplish, was that she doesn't choose to jump in the water, but because she doesn't when they're entering Valinor, all the elves are singing, like they're becoming part of it. They're kind of accepting it.
Her sword.
And since she won't let go of her sword and she won't let go of her revenge,
she's pushed out of the boat.
Yeah, like the boat just disappears and she just falls in the water. Like she just doesn't go in because she's not willing to accept it. And then she's like, "Oh fuck."
That would have been
it's
good.
It's like in World of Warcraft sometimes where you're like going over on the Zeppelin and then it just disappears and you just fall.
Yes, it's exactly it. She's on the boat and then it lags out.
In terms of the show and as they presented in the show, are we is it bad that she's going after Sauron? Actually, is it actually a bad thing that she's doing it?
I believe that's what the show is trying to tell us.
Because if the show is telling us that it is a bad thing she's doing that, why is that bad?
Because she's motivated by revenge, which is bad. You're not supposed to be motivated by revenge.
Well, and also, there's one line that the king says, something to the effect of, we often make things worse trying to fix them.
He makes the claim that he's worried Sauron will arise because she's looking for him, which
he says she has a vision. He doesn't just think that he sees a vision of this occurring.
But it's still his perspective on a vision that he had.
But like they had in Lord of the Rings, like Elrond has a vision of Liv Tyler having babies.
Yeah, that's pretty
Aragorn,
standard lore. The visions are accurate, right?
So I'm assuming that there's something to that vision. Like they put that line in there for some reason, right?
Well, yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a good reason.
Well, sure, but I'm assuming it wasn't just a throwaway line.
It's pretty deliberate.
It's hard to tell. That's the thing. When you have bad writers, it's hard to tell what's being set up as deliberate and what isn't.
You're right.
Because I'm not convinced by any actual material in the show that if she goes, especially when we know that Sauron is really, really evil. In fact, the show basically relies on us knowing that he's evil from another series. Part of her going to get him when apparently she has a lead is actually a bad thing.
Right. Well, part of the problem is that we all have this meta knowledge that obviously Sauron isn't gone because we've all seen Lord of the Rings. So we know that she's right, but we just don't know how exactly we're going to get there.
There's no negative consequences that come from her pursuing him to this level yet.
Yeah, for her maybe, but not yet. Right.
Well, we don't see any. Yeah, there's like she doesn't have a comrade die. She doesn't have another one of many elves die in this quest. She doesn't have any. It doesn't seem to be impacting anybody negatively, other than wow, it's cold. We should go home.
See, this is why they should have lost men when they fought the troll.
Right. But I mean, part of the reason I think that it's not that's what they're going for is like even when she's on the boat and she's talking to that guy that maybe is Sauron or not, even he is like, oh, you just want to go kill some orcs. Like they keep shoving in her face this idea that she's not really motivated by like some just cause.
Well, what's interesting is that when I watched that and he said that, I'm thinking, well, that's good. You want to kill orcs.
I know it's a weird
really
line.
Bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, what?
It's like, why? If the show is trying to telling me she is channeling her vengeance into what seems to be a very productive end in the show. Is it telling me that that's bad? Because if it is, I'm not convinced that it is.
Right. No, I agree with you. The show, well, because again, the show is poorly written. They're not doing a good job exactly laying out what we're supposed to be taking from all this. But I think it's because they're trying to make it like they're trying to set it up so that there's clues, but they want it to be a twist. You know, when Galadriel accidentally helps Sauron at the end of the season or something,
and then Girl Boss saves the day and totally neutralizes the Sauron threat.
I think if they do eventually have her do it turns out this was a bad idea, I don't think that they will have it be her fault, so to speak. Like it was maybe incidentally because of what she does, it leads to something bad. Right. But I don't think it will be because of a flaw on her part or anything that she could have reasonably known.
You could be right in terms of like her presence does something, but it would still be her fault because like if she would have went to Valinor, you know, she wouldn't have been there in the situation, even if it's incidental.
In the sense that it's a consequence of something she does, but it's not like a moral failing or a character failing of hers.
Right. Well,
then they could say, well, then they could have the best of both worlds in their minds. They could say, see, our message totally makes sense, but also our character is completely undamaged, and so we don't have to worry about fixing her.
If it wasn't for Girl Boss wokeness, I would say that the first season would end with her basically releasing or helping Sauron, and then the rest of the series is going to be about her trying to fix that, and then it'll end with somehow she transforms him into a giant eyeball on a tower somewhere, because it's got to end just right before Lord of the Rings, obviously. So
is it right before? What's the time difference between?
No, I'm saying like it's like, you know how in the Star Wars prequels it ends with like just in time for, you know, they're building the Death Star and like, they have to have it end just as the next one's going to start, even if the prequel is going to end like thousands of years before Lord of the Rings, they're probably going to end it with like, you know, Sauron becomes a giant eye tower or something.
Yeah, or they'll show like a scene of like the ring falling into the river, and then like Gollum's hand grabbing it or something. Like they'll do something.
Yeah,
like
right.
They'll do some Rogue One shit. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Are the dwarves going to help forge the rings? Is that what's happening?
No, I shouldn't. That's not even an apt analogy, but. They will come up with some kind
I think the elves do it actually, Adam.
Cheeky thing.
Well, yeah, but the elves and what are they enlisting the dwarves to do? Make sex toys? Doubtful.
I'm assuming they're enlisting.
I guess we might as well talk about we should probably talk about the final plot line then.
Yeah, we got like 45 minutes.
So when after Galadriel goes off in the boat and Elrond goes on his own story, which is when he gets recruited by the Elven King. What was his name? I don't
Elf King.
Elf King.
He looks like his name is Steve. He looks like his name.
Yeah, he doesn't look like an Elven King at all.
He doesn't look like an elf. He doesn't look like an elf at all. It's like a lot of these elves just are just dudes. They just stuck pointy ears on and said, "You're an elf." Like there's no sense of homogeneity in this racial appearance.
Wow, you're so racist.
His name is Gil-galad. Okay, so Gil-galad, King of the Elves, recruits him to go work with Celebrimbor to
Celebrimbor.
Whatever. Celebrimbor, okay?
Okay, with Bimbo.
Doctor Who.
Bimbo Baggins.
And there, he's like, I want to build a forge to build something amazing. We don't know what the amazing is yet.
Well, it's the rings, obviously. I mean,
yeah, but
so I was right. I'm correct. They're going to forge the rings. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
They're forging the forge first, and then the rings are going to be season 2. Like season 1 is building the forge. Yeah.
But we're headed towards the. I mean, the series is called The Rings of Power.
Well, okay.
So they're building the rings.
Thing. Yeah. Assuming, I mean, again, they could be totally not following the lore. The lore I thought was that Sauron tricks Celebrimbor into making the rings in the first place. So either that means that Celebrimbor already has met Sauron off screen, or they're going to change the lore so Celebrimbor just does it on his own or something.
Or it might. Here's the thing: the one ring was made in secret.
Yeah, but the other rings, I mean, yes. Right.
Yeah. So it might be the case that like the idea to make the rings is his, but then Sauron comes in somehow and is like, "How about you do this though?"
Yeah, do we know? Does the lore tell us how he tricks him? Is it like a vision or?
He appears as like a nice elf guy, and he's all like, "These rings will help you maintain the beauty of your realms or something."
Okay.
Like because basically magic is fading from the world, and all of their kingdoms are decaying. So, out of desperation, you have to build these rings, which will allow you to continue on.
Right. Mm-hmm. So Elrond is going to.
So we're looking out for
an
elf.
With the dwarves. He's going to hook up with the dwarves to build the. There's one scene in that really annoyed me, which is that they're like, "Oh, Celebrimbor's like, I need to build this forge, and I can't get men." And Elrond's like, "Well, let's go ask the dwarves for help." And then it cuts to like the map, and it shows you like the distance between where the elves are and where the dwarves are, and then it zooms in, and you just see Elrond and Celebrimbor like taking a leisure stroll around a corner, and they're at the dwarf place. I'm like, what the fuck? Like,
no supplies,
or, like, have like backpacks with gear. Like they just went like for weeks or months to get to this place.
And earlier when I said that there's a problem in this show with conveying time and space, this is one of the scenes that does that.
Yes.
It takes we have like 4 plot lines going on at once. You also, during this period of time, we have Celebrimbor and Elrond traveling some distance to another kingdom, to Khazad-dûm, wearing the same clothes they have, with no provisions. They're just strolling. They have no animals with them. It's like they just took a walk, right?
Right. It was like a mile walk to the Dwarven kingdom.
Is time passing normally for the rest of all of our side stories? I'm glad we had that meteor, so we sort of tied everything together temporally.
Right.
Well, keep in mind that the elven bread, you can live on it just by taking one bite. So maybe they just had like a pockets full of that.
I just had a,
but
took a cracker with them.
They didn't take extra clothes. They didn't take tents. No. They didn't take horses.
And also
a leisurely stroll there. And when he gets to the door, Celebrimbor leaves. He goes back.
Yeah, he's like, go back home, and I'll meet you there. I was like, what?
Hope he doesn't get robbed on the way home. All by himself.
He is a major, like, big time elf lord. You think that there'd be like a cart with
servants,
something to do on the way there, like
right.
It would not just be them walking, basically, which is kind of ridiculous.
They don't have any weapons. What if there's animals or bandits or
marauders?
I think the reason for this is because in the production they didn't actually go to like places.
They didn't actually go to Khazad-dûm in real life.
If this is all green screened and they're all inside of these studios and stuff like that, and they didn't actually fly to New Zealand or wherever to do this show, then it's just as simple as changing what the green screen is, telling your actors where they are now, and then boom. Why would you even think of giving them provisions? They didn't actually. There's no actual traveling. They're just in the new location now. They're in front of the same green screen. You
don't think that was recorded? They didn't like go outside like somewhere in the South California hills and just record that?
Maybe, I don't know. It's hard to tell. There is a lack of, for how expensive the show is, there's a lack of tangibility that the world seems to have. It doesn't feel lived in the way that the Fellowship of the Ring, we spent an hour in the Shire for a reason, and that paid off dividends for the rest of, the story.
And also, even though CG is pretty good, you can often tell the difference between a CG scene and a real life scene.
Of course,
like even just small things. Like if you're outside, you're
not
gonna see like differences in.
I mean, it's indistinguishable.
Even when you're outside, you see like if there's wind, the hair is kind of blowing erratically on your actors. You can't really replicate that, you know. Like,
yeah.
You can get a fan, sure, and just blow, but like it's gonna look more uniform. Like there are still some things that you just can't do with CG, and I just have a feeling that scene where the two of them they were out somewhere in some kind of park or something.
Twerking is something you should never do with CG. Let's just put that on our forever list.
That's true. But no, I mean, it definitely comes across the way Rags was saying it. It feels like they're at the elf set inside a building, and then the next scene they just walked across the set to like the next room, and they're just, the ring has a dude now.
It's so bad.
It's pretty bad. But
yeah.
I don't have much to say about.
That would have been a super expensive day if they did it right. So they may have just been like skimping on.
Well, they didn't have to. Yeah. All they literally had to do was have
tight shot of them on the door. Yeah.
Have a cart.
Have like a cart with horses and a bunch of people and with like packs and shit. That's like all they needed to do was hire like 5 guys.
Still an expensive day.
Well, it would have been
horses.
Okay, hold on. So, House of the Dragon, episode 3, the one that just came out. Mm-hmm. They have an entire huge amount of people head out to go hunting, right? And they have a scene where you have your main characters in a cart talking about things.
Yeah.
And you just gotta build a little set. It's a cart. Just put your camera inside of it.
You have Amazon money. There is no excuse.
Yeah, they have $1 billion making this show.
This is your premier, primo, mega, huge gamble show, right? You're spending insane amounts of money on this. You could, like, you gotta spring for horses and
carts. It makes the scene. It would also add a lot to the scene if there was like a bunch of people there when they tell them to fuck off and go away, because it'd be like, oh my god,
and they just show up.
We got like 100 guys here,
right?
Yeah, and they're just like, no, close the door. That'd be that was already a funny scene. That would be 10 times funnier.
It would be 10 times funnier, wouldn't it?
You see like all the 100 servants to look at Elrond.
I know, they would all roll. They're all that would be great. That would add some actual comedy to the show.
Yes.
And man, okay. Speaking of House of the Dragon, you guys saw the premiere numbers, right? You saw those numbers?
Well, let's stay on Ring of Power. We only have like 30 minutes
running
left.
Out of time.
Oh shit. Okay. Yeah.
Come on, discipline. Right. Let's have some discipline here.
NGC for €2 says Sauron's symbol is Mordor. Check the map.
Oh wait, we're doing super chats now. We're not finishing the.
Well, is there anything else you want to say about that sequence between Durin?
Well, I mean, there's more to say, but ultimately,
we're gonna talk about this. We're working on a video for this, and we're going to talk more about this. So
I'm sure we'll talk about this more in the future for future episodes. Yeah. So
this isn't like the last we ever have to say about Rings of Power. Obviously, another episode is coming out. We're probably going to stream about that next week. Obviously, we want to see if we're. I mean, I'm curious if it's going in the Breaking Bad direction. I'm curious if they do cobble together a semi-decent ending, and then totally girl boss screw it up. That's going to be. Horrific. But
well, I do have one more point to add then, because we already talked about Elrond and Durin's friendship, and that was actually some decent scenes in there. I didn't. Everyone was like, before the show came out, everyone was raging over the Black Elf, and she was actually a fine character, I think. She was
Black
okay.
Dwarf?
Sorry, yeah, Black Dwarf. Yes.
Yeah, no, she was fine. I had no problem.
Yeah. Yep. And I know, Rags, you didn't like the scene between the three of them, but I like the scene between the three of them just fine.
At the door.
No, at the house when they're eating dinner.
When they're eating dinner, I think it was a fine scene.
The problem is that it undermines everything from Durin's good scene on the elevator, when he invites him in and everything. And I feel like Deeza should be pretty fucking upset too, that this big friend of Durin supposedly just didn't show up for 20 years when it's just a casual stroll down the road to get here. Didn't send messages, didn't do any of this stuff. I don't like the skepticism that a tree can grow if it's given sunlight, soil, and water.
Love. Okay.
Not sure why. Actually, I don't like her analogy about the mountain either.
I was watching your EFAP on it. I think I was in the chat at this point, and I mentioned one that there was Sargon helmets. That was kind of funny to see.
The kids were running around.
Yeah, the kid.
I like the dwarf aesthetic stuff. It's really I like that.
But secondly, also over 20 years, you could have sent him a letter at least. Like if stuff's keeping you away, fine, just send him a letter. You know?
Well, that's the point though. That he doesn't perceive of time. Like to him, 20 years is nothing.
No, it takes 20 years.
Yeah, it's not like they're ants.
Elves don't perceive time differently.
They do. Wait, you're so wrong.
If an elf lives for 1,000 years, it takes 20 years for 20 years to go by.
No, you're not. Okay, wait a minute.
You are doing.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me, Rags, that you are the only person in human existence that does not experience time seeming to speed up as they get older?
Yeah, that happens.
You don't know? You don't wait. Are you like devoid of this
yeah.
human experience, Rags? Are you like unique in this?
There's actually
wait,
a bunch of studies on this.
You're excusing the fact that he went 20 years without visiting his friend or sending a letter.
I'm not excusing. I'm explaining that the point of the scene is supposed to be that since the elves live for so long, they literally don't think of or perceive of 20 years as being a big deal. He even says like, "Oh, it's been 20 years."
That's a
and
moral
he's like,
thing.
"Yeah, that's a big deal." And he's like, "Oh, that's right."
That's why he apologized. Though he's like, "Yeah, I'm sorry. You're right."
And he offered like no reasons. Durin has every right to be super upset.
Oh no, you're totally
right.
Yeah, you're totally right.
Yeah, it's a good scene though. That's
what made it interesting. It wasn't like when Elrond doesn't see him for 20 years, it's not out of maliciousness. He just literally is used to dealing with elves who for 20 years of time passing is not that big of a deal. Like he literally hasn't seen Galadriel for like hundreds of years. And he's just like, "Hey, Galadriel, what's up?"
Well, he was kind of excited. He was like, "Why didn't you tell me that she's here?" And he like jumps out of the tree. He was
but I mean, it's not like I haven't seen you for hundreds of years. Like it's not.
It's like I haven't seen you since last semester when we went on our
it felt like break. It's been like a year since.
I feel like an elf would still say something like, "I haven't seen you for like that's still a big deal because that's still hundreds of years that you have to live through."
Yeah, but not if they've been alive for thousands and thousands of years before that.
That's still the same amount of time that you have to live through.
Well, it changes your perception.
Regardless of how much more life you have to live, that amount of time is still the same.
Well, Regs, I mean, you're correct.
Can you guys still be friends even if you disagree? I mean, I feel like maybe you could, but
of course.
The point is that the dwarf scene it has the only relationship that I believe, and that's not a high bar. I don't believe. I can believe that Durin and Diza like each other and that they're married. I believe that it's not a phony bullshit movie relation. I could actually believe it, which is like the bare minimum for presenting a husband and a wife, right? But I do not believe that Elrond and Galadriel have a relationship. I do not believe
that was totally forced.
That Bray have
chemistry.
The elf and the chick have a relationship. I don't believe that relationship either. And I don't like the dwarf sequence really in general. It's full of wasted time and wasted potential and weird analogies that don't mean anything useful.
I'm not as hard on it. I think that there were, you know what, the dwarf scenes had character moments, which is what this show desperately needs. We sat down. There was nothing going on with the plot. We sat down and got to know some characters, and that was a fine experience.
Good character moments, though.
Listen, for this show, I mean,
I don't think I still don't think it's good.
It's not great, but I mean, it's better than a lot of things.
I mean, it was the best part, but that's not saying a lot because the best.
Yeah, so like 5 minutes of goodness and 2 hours of nonsense is not exactly a great batting average here. It's like they had one scene that I found palatable. Okay, let's move on.
I was frustrated with Durin and a lot of the analogies and stuff they used, and it was ultimately totally pointless.
There was one more dwarf scene after that, and the final dwarf scene was basically Durin taking the proposition to his father, I think, and they. It's kind of a meaningless scene, but then they're like, look at this, and then look at this, and then he like opens the chest, and they both look into the chest, but we don't get to see what's in the chest,
right?
And they never say what's in the chest.
What do you think is in there?
It's a briefcase from Pulp Fiction. They open a case.
It's Marsalis Wallace's soul. Is that what you're saying? Is
it? No. What it is? It's the Arkenstone.
No, it's Mithril.
I think it's the Arkenstone.
I don't think they have.
It could be either or. It could be.
No, this is what I mean. The reason they didn't say it or
what
show
if it's a king's cock ring?
just wait. The reason they didn't say it or show it because they don't have the rights to it, but it's the Arkenstone. They want you to think that it is.
Well, they're going to show it eventually. Whatever.
I think
they got to show it
because this is Khazad-dûm. This is Moria, and the reason that they dug too deeply was to get at Mithril, as far as I'm aware.
Oh, so you think this is like them discovering what Mithril is?
I think this is them discovering Mithril, which will lead to the destruction of Moria.
Right, which we will obviously see in the show.
However, that ties in with the second theory that I have, Diza's stupid fucking mountain story that they sing to the mountain. Originally, when she said, "Oh yeah, we sing to the mountain," right? That's how we know how to mine. I'm like,
they use
that's
echolocation, yeah.
Well, that's what I was thinking, right? Because in my head, I like to think that we juxtapose dwarves and elves. Elves are gay and live in the woods, but dwarves are practical. They have a lot of utility. They're not necessarily about beauty. They have sharp lines on their art. They're very focused on on mechanics, engineering, figuring out how to dominate the world, how to figure out the world, right? And so that's where I thought the analogy was going, that they were like echolocating or something, that different rocks and minerals would vibrate with different frequencies, and they have this whole fucking room set up to do it, just some dwarf shit, right? But instead it's like, oh, a mountain is like a person, it's an ever-changing story. Just a really shitty analogy that I totally don't buy at all.
I agree.
So I think that this mithril setup, Diza already told us that the mountain, if you listen correctly, the mountain will tell you where not to go, right? So against Diza's better wishes, she's going to tell all these dwarves, no, the mountain says don't go there. And all the men-dwarves are going to be saying, oh, but there's mithril down there. We got to go because we sung to the fucking mountain.
Oh, you're right. You're so right.
She's going to turn out to be the right one, and she warned them.
That will happen. Yes, that will happen.
That could be part of it, but it also could be a part where once the dwarves get their rings, and then they become corrupted as well, and they're like, now we're going to dig.
Right. Maybe.
Yeah.
There's one thing I want to say before we do.
But they already have. You wouldn't need that with the mithril. I think the mithril is reasonably enough reason for them to take insane risks trying to get it. And it does have, even though it doesn't make sense, but the shine that it gives, which is one of my few problems with Fellowship of the Ring, but when Gandalf shines the bright light and it makes all the fucking mithril glow, I think they're trying to recreate that glow for the box.
Maybe.
So
there was one thing in that scene that annoyed me, some very little thing, which is that when the king and the prince are talking and he approaches the box, the king doesn't open the box and look inside. There's like two guards standing on the other side of the box whose only job it is to open the box for the king.
No, their
to
guard
look into.
could be to guard the box.
You don't like that?
Their job is probably to guard the box, not specifically to open it if the king comes in. Besides, if the king wants to open the box, the king gets to. The king.
How do you lift the toilet seat, Sitch? Jeez.
Yeah, like they're like the.
You don't have someone do that for you?
The king is that much of a pussy that he's like, no, I can't open my own box. I have to have my servants over here open.
Have him open the fucking box himself. This is so pathetic.
No. He's like, no, maybe he wants to. He's like, I get to open the box and reveal the light to my son. He's having a personal conversation with Durin.
You're right.
I just thought of something, and this will be the last thing last point I throw out before we do the super chats. Okay. So if it is the case, Rags, as you say, that the dwarven princess, she's a princess, I think.
I'm not saying it's the case. I'm saying that's okay. But
if it's the case that her story is going to be that she's going to warn the dwarves from digging too deep, and they're going to ignore her.
Doesn't want us to dig here, and they're going to ignore her to get to the mithril.
Yeah.
What that means is that all four of the story arcs are literally the same story arc.
Of course.
It's Jon Snow trying to warn people about the White Walkers.
No. It's girls. It's girl
Snow. Girl boss.
It's female Commander Shepard trying to warn everybody about the Reapers.
Yeah.
It's the same story where the female character has vitally important information that will lead to the downfall of civilization, and none of the men want to listen to her.
Right.
Now that can be actually a pretty compelling story, but you can't do it 4 times.
No.
Because
here's the thing, Dev,
each one of these 4 plot lines, like Galadriel does it with chasing Sauron. The one MILF chick is not listened to about the goblin under her house.
So you're saying that in that situation, Galadriel will be proven right by the show. Yes. The show will affirm her position.
Yeah, and it's going to be shit.
You can do it 4 times if you're a Hollywood writer obsessed with how no one listens to you.
That is true. Deb, you're forgetting a big piece of information, which is that they can, and they very likely will write the same version of a story 4 times.
They can, but I guess the point that I'm making is that it seems to be the case. Okay, let's make a strong female character who's legitimately strong. How do we do it? The only card they have right now is woman who is not listened to by men who are beneath her. That's the only card. Like, you can make
just like real life.
Sounds like every screenwriter's story I've ever heard.
Here's how you change it.
Like,
if you're the
you can make so many different good stories where women are competent, but they always use this one.
What it's very likely what they might do is they swap it up a little bit, right? Because Durin's our main dwarf so far, right? Diza's a fairly small role, right? But she is in it, so we're almost certainly going to see more of her, especially because of the promotional material featured her very heavily, right? And that's not a fat joke. What they're going to do is they're going to have Durin believe her, right? She's going to tell Durin. Durin will be the only one who listens. The rest of them don't. Right, that's how they're able to get out and survive, right? Because they're not going to. I don't think they're going to kill off this family, right? She gets them out because Durin. It's almost like a Kal-El or a Jor-El thing with Krypton.
Right, with Superman.
You know, he knows, but no one else is going to listen to him about the exploding planet.
So that's how people are saying that, like, obviously in Lord of the Rings, the time doesn't make sense because the dwarves find the Balrog in the Third Age. So it might not be that they summon the Balrog or find the Balrog and destroys the city just yet, because it would be so far away from Lord of the Rings. What could happen is that they find the Balrog, they fight it, maybe Gandalf shows up, he manages to defeat it or put it back in the hole, and that's why Gandalf knows there's a Balrog there in Lord of the Rings. And then later, thousands of years later, the dwarves don't listen to the Gandalf and they keep digging and then they re-find the Balrog again.
Well, they also have the goblin component, right? It could just be that a whole bunch of fucking goblins come out and they wreak havoc for a while and they're constantly fighting dwarves over and over, and the dwarves are like, yeah, we're still fighting them, but the mithril is still worth it. So they keep digging and keep digging. It's just that it's them doubling down.
It's a different Balrog. That's right. It's the Balrog's brother. It wanted revenge.
It's the Balrog. No, it's the Balrog's sister.
Oh, that was, you're right.
And she's really she is so evil.
Right. Jack H, thanks so much for being a Free Will Seeker for 3 months, says, how convenient. I can just order my monthly supply of Free Will online for only $5. Thank you, Sitch and Adam. Boy, you're very welcome.
Yeah.
Bradley Roberts, thanks so much for the £5, says, member, it took the entire fellowship to kill a cave troll. Ice troll, though, girl power and girl power alone, and it crumbles.
Terrible.
It would have been nice to not have your troll fights be so distinctly different. You know?
Yes.
It's still a big deal for any, because obviously, like Legolas and Aragorn, they are very, very good. They are far better than your average anybody. These are clearly special people who are brought together for plot reasons. So, yeah, it would have been nice to see her, God forbid, struggle with something.
Especially in the first episode of your frickin' TV show.
Oh, yeah. They wanted to establish that she meant business.
Yeah. Okay.
Zach Crin, thank you so much for being a Free Will Seeker for 3 months, says, Adam has been making arguments that sound like he is coming around to Sargon's science as a religion argument. Am I reading this right, Adam?
No, you're reading it incorrectly, but I mean, science can, obviously there's bad science. People can get science wrong in many ways and do, and a lot of people do treat science as a religion, but I don't think science is a religion.
Cyborg for $2 says, Sitch, do jujitsu already. Okay, thanks, bye. Well, thank you, Cyborg. I'll get right on it. Girl Sarah for $5 says, I now subscribe to Bernie Sanders' brand of fraud. Quote, the establishment conspired against him. It took one call from Obama for China to drop the flu. There you go. Foolish Samurai, thank you so much for being a Free Will Seeker for 4 months, says, MAGA Republicans are anti-Democrats because they think the vote was stolen? Question mark. So 2016 Democrats are anti-democratic? Question mark, question mark. Sam Bars,
yes, obviously.
There you go. Sam Bars for $5 says, pumped up for this non-political stream from Dollar Meat Dev. More, please. Well, you're in luck. We're going to do more non-political streams in the future.
So I've been talking about changing my brand at some point, and people keep saying I should be called Dollar Meat Dev.
That's not a good branding.
Yeah, don't listen to that.
It's even worse. It's even worse.
All of my suggestions were better than that.
Yes. Lemon Drops Secret Meme Folder for thanks so much for being Free Will Seeker for 6 months, says, Rings of Power is not woke so far. Also, Nori's story is the best because we get more character development from her earlier than the action scenes for the elves. Nori's the little hobbit girl, right?
I don't
think there's any character development.
Her character is she's told what she is, and I guess she is that. I guess that's her character.
Well, they're trying to do a Frodo thing, right? Where it's like they're trying to do a Bilbo thing, where it's like she has like the wanderlust, and they don't want her, and she's like, no, stay in your hole. Right. But she's also kind of
not Bilbo, Frodo.
Well, no, because Frodo was a reluctant hero. Bilbo wanted to go on an adventure. Frodo
you've got it reversed.
Nope, I just watched the movies. No,
Frodo did not want to do this. He does not say he's going to take the ring to Mordor happily. Okay. He thinks he's going to get to go home.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I don't know. Frodo seemed a lot more excited to leave than Bilbo did.
And
it's
Bilbo,
been a while since I've
what is
read the
what is
book,
Bilbo's
but...
last line in the original trilogy?
I'm going on an adventure.
He's going on it like before he gets on the boat to the Grey Havens. He's like, I'm going on another. He's glad that he gets to go on another adventure.
Fair enough. Yeah.
Which is, by the way, a fucking perfect send off for him.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, with Nori, even with her, like, no one seems to care about her position or like believe what she believes or like that's why she hides the stranger from them. So there's also I think there's going to be like a we don't believe you.
That whole element of the story is borked. The whole Harfoot thing is really weird in terms of her characterization and why she behaves why she does. It's a really poorly written thing. This happens a lot with female characters is we don't see her living out her traits really. She is told that she has traits and that's that. Someone else explains to her how she is for the audience's sake. And that's how we learn who she is. And maybe she'll actually be that thing. She doesn't even say that she's going to help the stranger because she's kind and it's the right thing to do.
Cameraman 502 for $5 says there have been 2 episodes and nothing has happened. No inciting incident, nothing. See House of the Dragon, how they got the story moving from episode 1. Yeah, we're going to probably talk about House of the Dragon at some point too in the future.
Yes.
That was actually like a decent show, I think. It's actually okay. I'm surprised.
I've heard it's all right.
I would say it's a resounding I mean, it's better than Lord of the Rings, obviously. But
yes.
It's okay. Stuck for $5 says Rage intensifies. Oh,
did you miss one?
I think I read that
502 for $5. Oh, okay.
I read it already. I'm pretty sure Gandalf was in Valinor and corporeal before becoming a wizard.
Gotcha.
That's in the lore. It seems like the show's kind of making it different. So,
which house was Gandalf in? Was he Gryffindor, Ravenclaw, Hufflepuff, or Slytherin?
He definitely seems like a Gryffindor to me.
Seems like a Gryffindor.
Seems more Hufflepuff, but we can move on.
Stock for $5 says Rage intensifies. All the mayor and Valar can be incorporeal if they want. It's their natural state. They choose physical forms because they can. Zachary Plies for $10 says seems pointless to argue over any of these shows. It's all been pretty bad lately. Plus, I don't know how you guys don't die a little inside from the time wasted in watching bad shows or movie unless it's funny.
It is fun.
It
is fun to talk about bad stuff. It's something we care about. We find it meaningful to talk about these sorts of things.
If I wasn't making like the watch party videos on this, I wouldn't be watching this piece of shit.
Right. It's good content.
Yeah.
David Woodmains for $20. Thanks so much, David. It says Dev. He's not Sauron. He's one of the Ishtari, either Saruman or Gandalf, but most likely Gandalf. And they did not land in meteors. They arrived from the west in boats. Sir Dan gave his ring of power to Gandalf. There you go.
So a believer in the Gandalf storyline.
Something I'm noticing this a lot from just general comments and stuff of people talking about the lore and things. I think a lot of this stuff would be nice to have in the actual show. I think they did such a bad job really setting up the state of the world with the opening sequence that they had. And I mean, for having 3 long ass movies in Peter Jackson's trilogy, they spent like 8 or so minutes with their opening sequence. If they're going to spend seasons and seasons with this story, I mean, if you had an opening sequence that's 20 minutes, do it if you need to. That is an investment that you might have to start paying.
Yeah, maybe. Or they cut out the boat analogy that we don't need.
Yeah, totally.
And just have it be, and have them explain,
maybe
what
don't
the
even
gods.
have her be present.
Yeah, have them explain what the gods are and what the singing is and all this shit. There's a lot of interesting background and lore they could go into.
Yeah, you don't half-ass it. You have to explain to us a lot that we need, or keep it. It's like the magic system in the original Lord of the Rings movies. Like the magic, it's very ambiguous as to what it can and can't do. It's very like, oh, can you do this here? Can you do that there? How come that? I was like, you don't really know. It's kind of up in the air. So that's sort of a defense for it.
I'll compare it to House of the Dragon again, because clearly the show is supposed to be about Daemon's rebellion, which is a period of history in the lore of that series. But they set that up in the first episode. The entire first episode is just backstory to see why Daemon starts to hate the rest of his family and his brother.
Well, and they doesn't really have a good reason, but
I think he has a pretty decent reason.
Well, from his point, piece of shit. But
he is. But like from his point of view, he's justified. But that's the thing. They introduce the characters. They show what their relationships are. They show the initial events that move the pieces into place to show where his rebellion comes from, because the show is going to be about him rebelling against the crown.
Well, do you know where where the story goes? Do you know those spoilers?
I know the basic idea of where the story goes.
Okay, because it's not. I wouldn't say it's really. I wouldn't classify it as Daemon's Rebellion, but I don't want to say it without spoiling it.
Well, I mean,
someone is rebelling. I just wouldn't classify it as Daemon's Rebellion, but.
Anyway, well, in any case, it feels like they actually spend the first episode setting up the pieces for what's to come, and I don't get that feeling watching this. Yes. I don't get that feeling watching this at all.
The Game of Thrones show feels much more like a real show because you like it has some problems with it, but it definitely you can see the direction it's going. It doesn't feel like a lot of just wasted time. So, Matthew. Stug for $5 says technically during the time period of the show, the world is still flat, so anyone can get to Valinor. Matthew Morelli for $20 says...
Wait. Why would the shape of the Earth determine whether or not you could get to Valinor?
Who knows?
Okay,
if the world was a sphere, you could still go there.
The TLDR is... the TLDR is... the world's flat, something happened... I think actually Sauron does this to the Númenóreans, and then the world becomes round. And then when it becomes round, the realm that the elves come from peels off and is not part of the round earth. It's off in its own plane.
Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Matthew Morelli for $20 says Gandalf was corporeal in Valinor already and learned from Veya, another Ainur, the virtues of pity and patience. He would never do what the stranger does. That said, I don't trust these hacks at Amazon to know that. Yeah, I'm assuming
it's like virgin speak to me. I swear to God. Right. Gandalf was in Valinor learning magic from Iar, from the Thorgan. Like Jesus fucking Christ.
Right. Stug says you were basically correct, Dev. That's what he was talking about the flat Earth. So there you go. David Woodmains for another $20 says this is why the show is completely messing with the timeline. The Ishtari arrive in Middle Earth after the elves create the three rings, and the hobbits do not arrive until the Third Age. There you go. Libertarian Sasquatch for $5 says Aragorn's love to Arwen was forbidden also, and he was the prince of Dunedain. That's true. There was that forbidden love.
Did you say Aragon instead of Aragorn?
I always say Aragon.
Because Aragon, Aragon also fell in love with an elf. In a much worse book. It's very confusing. And her name was, it was like Arwen. It was like Arya, Arya. I think that was her name, Arya. So Aragon loved Arya. Aragorn loved Arwen.
They
very
stole
simple.
It, obviously.
You cannot confuse these two
they
things.
Stole it, yes.
Wait, hold on. Wasn't Arya the lolly from Game of Thrones?
That's a different person.
That's Anya. Okay, Jesus. That's Anya, right?
Right. Asadiant Media for $10 says Glorfindel is resurrected in the Second Age by the gods because he's an uber Chad elf that died slaying a Balrog. He would have actually been a good red herring for Sauron, but he isn't in 3 show. There you go. Stock for $5 says, I don't agree the elves need to be portrayed in this mega stoic manner. They're often very passionate. Galadriel herself was prideful in her youth. Well, there you go. Texas SP12 for $5 says Gran Torino was the last movie that dealt with bigotry properly that I can think of. I totally disagree with that, but I've already given my Gran Torino take.
Arcane does an excellent job at showing the bigotry between two nations.
Right.
Arcane's really good.
I have to actually give it another chance. I only watched the first episode and I was just like, eh.
Listen, I know Arcane is seriously like fucking brilliant.
Oh,
it's an insanely it is one of the best written shows I've ever seen in my life. It's insanely good.
High praise.
We had like 3 EFAPs devoted to it. It's insanely good.
Okay. I'll have
if
to
it's not your thing, it's not your thing. That's totally fair.
Mm-hmm.
But it is just so high quality.
Brain for $5 says stories about racism are fine, but writers need to find just about any other story to tell at this point. It's not the only story in existence. Boring. Yeah, that's definitely good.
Totally agree.
Very true.
Yeah.
Definitely very true. V Radio for $5 says the 80s and 90s approach of just putting diverse characters in movies and writing them was awesome and working. Will Smith in Independence Day, Ripley in Aliens, etc. True. That is the liberal conception of diversity. That's what we should keep, not the woke communist version.
Yeah.
Gene Wrights for $2 says Harfoots are one of the 3 groups of hobbits. There you go.
Good to know.
Fresher Luke for $10 says, want some better fantasy that's animated and has fun characters they can connect to? Maybe consider backing Random Saga, which is available now on Indiegogo. Well, there's your ad.
Check out Fresher Luke's campaign, Random Saga.
Yeah. Ronaldo A. Ramirez for $10 says, Gary from Neurotic and AZ from Heels Babyface have known the first season from insider info from the people they know. It's going exactly as they were told. Yeah, I heard that he was saying he had leaked information, but I hadn't been following it super closely. Has he talked anything about whether Galadriel is going to release Solon or not?
I listened to part of their stream, but I didn't hear anything about that. So
interesting.
But I'd like to know.
Yeah. Tickle Tackle Cum Hunter. What a name. What a name. Thank you so much for being a free will seeker for 2 months. Says, thank you, whoever continues giving me membership. Madam is a dunce. I don't know who Madam is, but I assume it's either Potato or our surrogate uncle Potato or our surrogate father Jay. So thank you both. Desert Runner, thanks so much for being a free will seeker for 6 months. Says, Rings of Power total trash. Anyone who disagrees can fight me in real life. Bring as many ducks as you want to help you. I am curious to hear someone's take who thinks it's really good. I haven't really heard anyone say it's really good.
Rings of Power? Yeah, everyone seems to say that, at least a lot of the people that I've talked to and talked with, it's bad.
Yeah.
It definitely could be worse, but it is still bad.
Like, I've seen Twitter people say it's good. I've seen like bullshit articles say it's good. I haven't really heard a video of someone saying it's good.
Yeah, those will inevitably trickle out as time goes on, and I want to know what they find so good about this show, because best faith that I could do, I just don't know what it is that I could point to and be like, oh yeah, this is what people love.
Right. Der Lammer Gear for $10 says, the best issue with Galadriel is that she isn't acting elfish. Lord of the Rings elves treat each death equivalent to 10,000 human ones, hence why their sacrifice at Helm's Deep was so meaningful.
It's a problem with the original movies that they just sort of never get brought up again after Helm's Deep. Those movies are great, but they're not perfect.
NGC for €2 says, Sauron symbol. Oh, every the one. Cyborg for $2 says, hi, Rags.
Hi.
Clear's Bugging for 5 Canadian says, Middle Earth has gone through a period of ethnic cleansing from the Rings of Power until the Hobbit. All the black people disappeared.
It's been a joke for a while now, but it does make you think. All of a sudden, we got...
Yes.
I never thought of this. What if the reason... elves never had short hair, did they?
In Lord of the Rings? They all had long hair, yeah.
Until we have our first black elf, and now it's okay for him to have short hair?
What's up with that?
Hold on,
Did they change the lore of the elf haircuts so that...
In Hobbit, did any of the elves have short hair? I don't remember.
In the Hobbit? Oh, yeah, tons of them. They had, like, curly hair
Was there a black elf in the Hobbit?
I don't remember that.
A black... No, no, I'm saying they had a black elf, right? For representation or diversity or whatever the fuck it was, right?
Mm-hmm.
He had short hair. Yeah. So did they now say, okay, elves can have short hair now?
Oh, I see what you're saying. But why didn't they just give him a wig like, in House of Dragon, they gave the black Valerian the ridiculous white dreadlocks.
Inside of you, there are 2 wolves. In them, the black guy has long hair. And the black guy has short hair.
Well, maybe it's the case that elven hair just takes a really long time to grow. So they just haven't, like, Elrond's short hair hasn't grown that much yet.
There were elves at Helm's Deep. Remember, the elf guy shows up at Helm's Deep because all the archers. Yeah.
Yeah, Haldir. Yeah. He's got long hair.
Yes, he does.
It just takes a long time for it to grow, man. That's all it is.
I guess far longer than human hair, because my human, he has very long hair. So, you know.
The Wooster for $10 says, it is said that Tolkien based dwarves on medieval European Jews. I'm not sure about that. When asked if he was, he said, I can only reply that I regret that I appear to have no ancestors of that gifted people. Well, listen, you should all regret that you don't have ancestors of the best people.
That's a damn good comeback right there.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
The Wooster for another $5 says, correction on the last super chat, when asked if he was Jewish by the Nazi German authorities in order to get his work published in German. Oh, okay. So he said it. Well, if he said that to Nazis, that's pretty based. So
Tolkien was he was a guy.
Look at that.
I don't know.
We did
People
it.
said he was racist on the internet.
So I guess we'll be back tomorrow to do a super chats.
Hold on. Dr. Diddler for $2 says, never watch or read Lord of the Rings, but I do have a story. When I was in 7th grade, I was plowing through books and picked up Fellowship of the Ring. Guy behind me pops over the buzz seat and asks what I'm reading. I tell him, he says, nerd, and I stopped right there.
Wow. What a
Wow.
You should have just kept that to yourself.
You should have thrown the book at his face.
Is that Diddler the detractor?
That is Diddler the Worm Tongue, who's whispering dark lies and secrets into
The
Mahler's
shit
ears.
starter.
Yes.
Yeah. He's trying to start a 3-way war between Mahler, Sitch, and me, and that's no good.
Yes. Dr. Diddler for another $1 says, also, Dev, can you explain why you said, quote, the Watchmen movie is the greatest work cinema has produced? And, quote, if Sitch doesn't like it, he can fuck a cactus. It seemed weirdly out of character for you to say.
Worm tongue.
You really think the Watchmen movie is the greatest work of cinema, Dev? Jesus.
Actually, I haven't seen it. I don't know.
Okay.
What's it all like?
Story.
Actually, I haven't heard anything about it. Like, is it actually good? I don't know. Bad?
That's a story for another day. Stug for $5 says, technically there's a statement where Tolkien said he related dwarves to Jews because their home kept getting stolen. Well, there you go. That's funny. So do you want to do this? I don't know how many
I
super
can't
chats we
wait
have.
for after the Balrog attacks. I can't wait for the Trail of Tears where
there you go.
All the dwarves have to go to their new home.
Yeah. Maybe we'll stream tomorrow. I don't know what we'll talk about, but
we have a bunch of super chats to read. So.
We do have some super chats. Yeah. Thank you all for coming. We're going to talk about Lord of the Rings more in the future. More episodes come out. Take care. Thanks, Rags and Dev, for coming on.
Yeah, take care.
No problem.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Toodaloo.